Attention, citizens of fair Gotham, welcome to Bat Minute Beyond, Chunkz of the Joker, the show that makes us worthwhile, not the other way around. Without this, I shouldn't exist. I am one of your hosts, John Parker.
And I am the co-host who owes you big time for your listenership, dear listeners. Unless you're one of those people who dropped off after the Burton movies. I noticed the downturns. Like, oh, I'm not doing Schumacher. Screw you. We were out there plunging our hands into the filth so you could keep yours clean. And you're out there swanning around now with your Batman 89 and Batman Returns trip. Yeah, thanks to us. But that's a rant for another day. I am that co-host, Niall McGowan.
You know what, though? We can let the listeners off if they subscribe to the Patreon.
Yes, yeah. You can now retroactively win my heart back if you come and subscribe to our Patreon, which is about to get very busy, to be fair, because this friggin' Colin Farrell Penguin show is coming up, and we'll be dealing with all that, bunch of stuff coming up there. So.
And you may have heard a voice in the background there. We are joined by two very special guests. An oldie. That sounds really harsh. I don't want to say that. An oldie and a newbie. We are joined by Rob and Saoirse.
Woo! Woo! Yeah. Great to be back.
Do you like being called an oldie?
I don't mind being called, and it's the perfect subject matter to be called an oldie on. So I'm happy with that.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah. So we should have been more like, Rob, what the hell are you doing here? It's where I should be. It's where I should be. But yeah, well, welcome as well, Saoirse. Like you're, also probably should tell people off the bat, like that, in case anyone's wondering, you two are in fact a partnership of sorts. So like you do know each other. We have had guests on this season who literally did not know each other and didn't know they were even going to be on together until about 5 seconds before we recorded.
So. Not just a friend, a partner. We mentioned off mic that this is only the second time Saoirse and I have actually podcasted together. That the last time was for the All-Star Superfan review of The Flash, which was kind of trial by fire.
Well, and our listeners will know that me and Niall like The Flash, but we also we completely understand that no one else does. That's okay. That's fine.
Michael Keaton's accountant likes The Flash.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I was a big defender recently of Michael Keaton saying he doesn't care about the Batgirl movie. He's like, because it was taken out of context a little bit as well, I think.
I think that people do that with actors all the time though, because Gary Oldman said something about I never watch my own movies. Once they're done, they're done. And people are like, oh, how dare he?
Yeah.
Not watch his own masterpieces. Like, Gary Oldman does whatever he wants. Like, he's a guy delivering you the he's giving you the art. Like, whatever he wants to do with it doesn't matter what way he interprets it.
Exactly.
Kind of Michael Keaton was just like, yeah, that Flash, I had a lot of fun making that, and it's a good paycheck. And he made a big point of saying, I really hope that those guys who made it doesn't affect their careers too much, because that's a big deal for them. But for me, I'm fine. It doesn't matter to me that whether it's I got mine. So.
It sounds like he wasn't even really in the movie that much. Anyway, he was kind of in 2 or 3 scenes or something. So it's I don't know. My favorite quote like that is Halle Berry. Somebody asked her, "Do you regret doing Catwoman?" And she's like, "No, it was this huge paycheck. There was no black actresses getting paid that much for films back then, and it was a great honor. And I'm really proud of making all that money."
I support that as well. And actually, she came out with another good quote recently, which now you're probably going to have to edit this out. Because she said, people said that movie sucked balls. The balls aren't so bad.
Although we talked about Catwoman. Those balls were pretty bad.
But
extra,
we are...
as the what do they call that guy, Bad Man, the on that one, the extra vinegary with those balls, I think, as he was saying that one. That's a deep cut reference.
On
right
that
there for
terrifying note, we are here to talk about Chunk 15, which is minutes 71 to 75. And yes, you might be thinking, you're near the end then. Absolutely, yes. We are fast approaching the end. This, in fact, leads us into the credits, because the chunk starts with a down Tim, and it ends with text to skim.
I like it.
Yeah, that's very good, very good.
Yeah,
I think
well,
even
thank you very much.
Next chunk doesn't even. It's not even really a chunk. It's more like the kind of the bile after the chunks.
Yeah.
It's like a minute and 37 seconds or something. I think. Again, though, we'd like to set the scene for everyone. So, both of you folks, Rob, I know that you're not very familiar with Batman at all, so you're probably going to be very in the dark about this whole thing. But Saoirse, what's your familiarity with Batman Beyond and beyond?
Well,
what
interestingly,
where are you coming
we spoke about this the other day, and I watched our assigned chunk before we watched it through again. And apparently we had watched this before, but I don't actually really remember that very well. So I think I took my notes having not watched the rest of it, kind of as almost a control subject, which I think, led to some interesting questions, which were then answered when we did the full watch through. But yeah, I suppose I have some understanding or knowledge of it, but also even when Rob kind of said to me, he's like, well, if I was to say to you, Batman Beyond, what do you think that would involve? I was like, well, it's beyond just Batman. I was like, it could just be, Bruce having his, few little hobbies on the side.
Oh yeah.
Just it's beyond, what his day to day. But that's obviously not this. But interestingly, I think there are some kind of good points that came from not having watched it through and then having some of those questions answered later. Yeah.
So when you were watching this initial chunk, though, it's like, why is this old man in the ground? What's that have to do with anything?
100%. And I was like, straight off, wrong universe, but I was like giving Uncle Ben vibes, which isn't, very pleasant. So I was like hooked by this.
Oh.
And then a young Batman voice. And I was like, but this is Batman Beyond. So why would there be a young voice? Is there time travel happening here? It opens up a whole can of worms. Yeah, different things there to ponder. But yeah, I think starting off with the man on the ground, there's a lot of emotion in that, and the music around this point as well. It's quite stirring, I will say.
Yeah.
But am I right in saying you never watched Batman Beyond back in the day, Saoirse, as in the actual series?
No.
Wait, you're not alone.
Yeah. There are many of us. Dozens, in fact.
There are dozens. I'm one of them. I never saw it, but I think because at the time I'm like, well, that's not Batman, which is a stupid, childish way to think. But I was young.
It's like them trying to pitch people like, would you want to go beyond Batman? Like, no. I was quite happy with Batman. I don't want to go beyond that.
Some fake Batman.
Yeah. Bat phony.
I think it's really interesting though that I asked Saoirse that, and she didn't immediately think, oh well, it's obviously a different Batman in the future, because it was called Batman of the Future in Europe, so they must have tested that here and been like, nobody understands what Batman Beyond means. We need to call it something more obvious. That's what they call it, Batman of the Future.
That's actually a fascinating point, because we've talked about this on the show, that we both go, well, Batman Beyond is a much better title.
It is, yeah.
It's a snappier title, it's more exciting. But if you present that to people and they are clueless about what you're talking about, I can see why the studio would go, no, we've got to change that.
Yeah.
Because you want people to get it,
I'm surprised they didn't go for like Batman 2040 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, it just seems like that would have been just like, oh, well, that's people will piece that together. But then people would piece Batman Beyond together. To be fair, all you have to do to get asses in seats is just say Batman.
Yeah.
Like that's literally all you have to do. People will be like, yeah, what's up?
I'm assuming it's something similar to like the Fast and the Furious films over here, like the way they in America they have all these cool punchline titles like The Fate of the Furious and all that. We don't get that. They just call it Fast and Furious 8, and I think it's because they're dealing with a lot of countries where English isn't the first language, and they don't want to have to.
True.
It might not translate well, so they just call it a more obvious, blatant title, and I think that was the same with Batman of the Future.
Well, one they did it with that I always think of is over here, Die Hard 4.0.
Yeah.
In America, live free or die hard.
But then there's the translation, like, I'm not too sure what country it is, but it might be like a part of urban legend. This might be a legit thing. But apparently some country released The Sixth Sense, with the title "He's a Ghost."
Oh, Jesus.
Because like, the Sixth Sense won't translate, but just call it what it is. Like he's a ghost. There you go. So this could have been released as like Batman is now a new guy and he's in the future. Like there you go. That's the pitch, right? Like it's.
This is slightly off topic now. I feel like I've told you this before now, but I was told once by someone that when Teen Wolf came out in some European country, Back to the Future was obviously still the biggest thing in the world. And for whatever reason, that they couldn't find a way to translate Teen Wolf, so they just called it The Boy from the Future.
Amazing.
I think so many people though would be just interpreting like, I guess when he turns into a werewolf, that's a werewolf from the future? Is that what's happening? He just has like, the future's really good at basketball, I guess, is what's the pitch of that. Yeah.
Well, I know because this is on the brain, because we, as of recording, we went to watch Terminator last night. In the cinema.
Lovely. We went to see it the other night as well.
Yeah.
Excellent. Oh, wasn't it so cool to see it on the big screen? Oh,
gorgeous.
Me and Niall both seen it probably 5,000 times, and we still saw new stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same.
Crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
But since that's on the brain, I watched a video about Terminator the other day, and it pointed out that in Poland, the movie is, because I think Terminator, it sounds like a Polish word. So they're like, no, we can't call it that. So it's called Electronic Murderer.
That's nice. I like it.
It's descriptive, you know?
Yeah, you know what you're getting. In Hungary, it was called The Dealer of Death.
I really wonder though in Kyle Reese's line of like, "Oh, you've been targeted for termination," as it called like, "You've been targeted for electronic murder." Like,
Yeah.
they have to translate it that way as well.
I don't know.
In Polish, maybe it sounds cool. I don't know.
Yeah, that electronic murderer is out there. It doesn't feel pity or pain or remorse.
Just in that context, though, I think of like hearing of a lot of, layoffs and stuff in recent months and years. Just, you have been targeted for termination. It just doesn't sound kind of as threatening as it may have at the time,
It's like, you got to get released from your job as a waitress. Yeah. She did seem like she wasn't, people were jerks to her, but she wasn't also the best waitress.
No, she wasn't.
I was questioning it in the scene. It's like, did she mix up that order, or did the kitchen give her the wrong order? Because it's a big difference between like Sarah Connor took down their order wrong. That's on her. The kitchen giving her the wrong stuff to take out, that's on them. So it's like, and I was also wondering, that kid, what is that ice cream he puts in, or is that mashed potato?
Yeah.
I thought it might have been a big gravy soaked lump of mashed potato.
That's the
wastes
bit that
ice
really
cream?
gets you, isn't it? Like when the ice cream goes in, you're like, oh, what a crap day.
Also, someone needs to watch that child. That's terrible behavior.
Absolutely.
That would be one though for future franchise installments. Would be
exactly.
like little Terminator, like an infiltration unit. You think that kid's just putting an ice cream in your apron? No, he's got an Uzi 9mm under there as well.
He's setting everything in motion.
Yeah,
That's the thing. That's the thing. But let's set this chunk in motion. We are back as the Joker, so to speak, has transformed.
The Jimster.
The Jimster? Okay, cool. I like it. He's transformed back to Drake. Terry's got him. Easy. And the big laser, of course, is on the way.
Yeah.
So they've got to get a move on fast.
Yeah, I thought this was all very vaguely the most terrifying Terry has ever been. Because if you imagine waking up and then just Batman's just hovering over you, smiling in your face. You'd be like, what the hell, man?
Oh, man, when we were kids, I don't know if I've ever told you this, Saoirse. When we were kids, I went into my brother's room one time at like 6 o'clock in the morning and put on a balaclava and like shook him awake.
No.
And he just screamed the house down in terror. I'll never forget the sound he made. I got in so much trouble.
You're evil.
Yeah.
You and that kid putting ice cream in the apron.
Yeah.
I mean,
We're cut from the same cloth.
You're up there with him.
You
Jesus.
are. But no, I think also having watched the chunk out of context, I also had that feeling of like, what is happening? This is terrifying. Batman's just like there, and this guy is like coming to. It would be so terrifying.
How did you feel about Batman's moving mouth, Saoirse, by the way? Because I feel like that was weird to me when I first saw this as a kid. I was like, oh, he's wearing a mask and his mouth moves?
Yeah, I suppose it is a little bit trippy in a sense.
The
Cool
best I could
future
come
tech.
up with was that it's like a kind of a special technology that's like a memory kind of thing that clings to his flesh.
Yeah.
Totally.
But my big thing though has always been, where does it stop when it goes up to his, because his lips are black, so is it going into his mouth as well?
Oh.
Where does it stop? Like, at what point is it like, right now that's where the mask ends, you know?
No, it's got to stop at the lips. Come on, it can't be going in. That's horrific.
Yeah.
But then if it doesn't stop at the lips, then it must be weird eating as Batman.
Is everyone else kind of touching their lips trying to find the edge of the mask
Yeah.
now?
And I've got massive lips, which is sometimes good, sometimes not good. What would I do? Jesus.
It's yeah. Although we kind of passed over there, Rob, though, because I was being facetious earlier when I was saying you have no familiarity with Batman. You're
Really?
a massive Batman fan.
Yeah.
But were you a big guy for Batman Beyond in general back in the day, or were you one like? Because I know some people. We've had several of them on the show who were like big into BTAS, and then they're like, "Oh no, I'm not. I'm done with that. Like, I'm not going near whatever this is." Or were you dyed in the wool, like, you know, ride or die kind of guy with this whole thing?
Dyed in the wool, ride or die. So you have to remember as well, I'm a little bit younger than you. I was 9 when Batman Beyond came out, and I think it was exactly like a perfect age for it. And I remember there was like there was a bit of hype leading into Batman Beyond. We must have watched something a couple of months before it came out. And I remember my mum telling me about it, that there was this new thing coming out called Batman Beyond, and Kevin Conroy was going to be in it and all this stuff. Like, my mum introduced me to the animated series in the first place, but that came out when I was like 3 and 4. So I do vividly remember watching it, but I was very, very young. Whereas then when the new Batman Adventures came out, that was 97. But that was only like one season, and it was on a Tuesday, and we had swimming on a Tuesday, so I missed a bunch of episodes. And so, but Batman Beyond, that came out in 1999. I remember we had the tape of the pilot, and I remember putting it in, and the first thing that struck me was, you know, which is ironic because, you know, we'll talk about it in a sec, but this felt way darker, the cartoon, than the other Batman show. Like, there was, you know, in the first episode, you have Terry's dad dying of like a nerve poisoning, and they show you those like really haunting body horror pictures of like the nerve gas destroying. And then you have like the Bane episode where people are addicted to venom.
Oh, yeah.
And like, there's loads of just really creepy, dark episodes. They seem to get it, like, considering that this was supposed to be a more kiddie friendly version of Batman. You know, I just remember.
It feels like it was done out of spite. Like,
Yeah,
it was
probably.
like, oh, you want to go? Okay, yeah, sure, we'll do that.
And
what are you going to
this-
do? Fire us?
This movie especially is really kind of freaky when you think about it. Like, it's almost like, okay, well, we're not allowed to kill Robin, so what's the darkest thing we can possibly do with him?
Can we give him a fate worse than death?
It's worse, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you can do that. That's fine.
And like, I think that helped in a way, because I remember people who didn't even really like superheroes liking Batman Beyond when it was on. And I remember talking to people at school, and, you know, this was still in the days when like the Adam West was still being repeated on TV, and people were just fresh out of Batman and Robin. So Batman was not that cool, I don't think, when Batman Beyond came out. But I remember like suddenly people were like, oh yeah, Batman Beyond. And I was like, oh really? You like Batman now? Great.
I've been there since day one.
And and this is interesting actually. Well, it's not, but anyway, the pilot movie was released as Batman Beyond here, but then the show itself was called Batman of the Future. And I remember being disappointed. I was like, Batman Beyond is a way better title. Why did they change the name?
Yeah. I have a weird memory, though, of seeing it at the time, and the title's actually saying, like, you know, it does that, like, when the title comes up, it has that, you know, Batman appears, and then it goes that kind of sound, and Beyond kicks in. And I have a vivid memory of it saying Batman of the Future, Batman Beyond. Like, they had joined the two titles together. But I've looked into it. No evidence of that ever happened. So
Was
it's
this
like,
just an Irish thing?
it might have just been like a me thing, whereas it's like I'd heard somewhere down the line that it was called Batman Beyond elsewhere, and I just sort of like I just took on the parlance of been like, oh, if that's a better title, so that's what I'm going to call it.
maybe.
Mandela effect.
Yeah, totally. It's
And sorry, last thing I was going to say was I had the famous original version of this on video. The one with all the stuff cut out of it and the different Joker death and all that. So I actually had that on video originally, and then we went to America like a year or two later, and I found the uncut one on DVD, and I had the comic adaptation. And the comic adaptation was weird because it had bits from the original cut and bits from the censored version. So it's
That's
kind of
cool.
a weird mix of the two. And there's a line, I always remember there was a line in it where Bruce says, "Oh, well, Tim did shoot the Joker." And I remember reading the comic going, what? No, he didn't. He pushed him and he fell back or whatever. He didn't shoot him.
Why would he shoot him? What?
So I was really confused by it as a kid. And it was only then when I saw the uncut one a couple of years later that it all made sense. So it's great that they released that, man. Like when you think of all the weird, you know, like Superman 4 or Batman Forever or the Snyder Cut, all this stuff that we're like clamoring for them to release uncut versions of. And this came out like pretty much straight away, you know?
Yeah, I think it was like literally like a year or two later. It was just like, oh, if people want that, all right, yeah, there you go. It's like, it doesn't cost. The same thing though. You think like, oh, Batman Forever or Schumacher cut wouldn't cost them anything, but it seems to be like that might be a pain in the ass for them to do. They actually have to put. You would have to make it in some way financially worthwhile for us to release that. Whereas they were with this, it was just like. Yeah, just we released that video. Someone will buy it. There's nothing. The thing's made already, but there was a weird change, though, I know, from the original cut to this that's in this chunk.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to being able to pick your brains about whether you think it's a good change or not. 'Cause it's one of the ones where it's like, yeah, people had to sit down and talk about that and go, like, yeah, this is what we're doing now. Like, there was an executive decision had to be made about it, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay.
We will.
But yeah, so then we get, Terry hoisting up Tim to get him out. Because you almost forget, like, oh yeah, that laser beam's coming. And then one person who didn't forget was Ace, who's there at the door, like, you locked me in too, asshole. I didn't agree to get freaking, destroyed by that laser. Like, I've been trying to get out of here the whole time.
Well, that's the thing. I'm watching it going, get a move on. And that's just for Ace, right? I don't care about the humans. I just want the dog to be okay.
It was like Ace is just like, I saved your ass like 5 times in the last 10 minutes of this movie. And then you just lock the door on the Joker, forgetting that I was in here too.
It'll be all right.
I didn't agree to take this. I want out of here, man. Like I didn't agree to die with by fiery, death from a dove. Not death from a dove, death from above.
Man, Ace is the MVP of this, isn't he, Saoirse? Like,
100%.
Just adds so much kind of humor and warmth, and just like that bit where he's watching cartoons earlier. It's just so lovely that they just stuck a Looney Tunes cartoon in there.
Yeah.
And the idea of Batman bringing him along to fight the other guy, I heard your episode about that where I think one of your guests was saying that was maybe a little bit dangerous for the dog, but I always thought that was cool. He gets to have his little moment of revenge. I thought that was sweet.
I think it's both, right? It's dangerous for the dog, but as a viewer, you're like, yeah, but it's great though.
Yeah. It's also in Batman's kind of remit of just like, bringing 10-year-olds along to fight supervillains. Like, that's fine. Oh, I wouldn't bring my dog along though. Come on, get out of here.
He is an attack dog as well, in fairness.
Yeah, but I think we talked about it. It might be in the episode that'll be airing this week. It's like when Ace is back in action again. The vibe's almost like Bruce will be sitting watching all this in the Batcave, going like, should I have just brought a dog with me the whole time? Because it seems like he's taking care of business. Like Ace is whooping a lot more ass than Dick Grayson ever did. I'll tell you that.
It sure would have been handy in that there, The Dark Knight. I know it's a different universe or whatever, but do you remember that movie, the weird kind of anti-dog message that movie seems to have, where the Joker is always bringing dogs to attack Batman and stuff?
Like,
probably could have used his own dog there.
It's like getting the incentive too. It's like, we'll chop you up and feed you to your pooches. Then we'll see just how loyal a hungry dog really is. Like Chris Nolan has a chip in his shoulder about a dog will turn on you, man. A dog will turn on you. I don't trust him.
Well, we all know Batman's into cats.
Yeah, well, he's into one cat. Also have notes on her for later in the episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I know what they are. Yeah.
But one thing I did note as well, because obviously we talked about earlier in the season, the big Joker redesign, and they're like, no one was happy with that new Batman Adventures black-eyed, white pupil version of the Joker.
What were they thinking?
But then when Terry's bringing Tim over, and Ace is like, come on, we gotta get out of here. Terry holds up a Joker grenade that has those eyes on it.
Yeah.
This is like one animator was like, well, I liked it, so I'm keeping it in. So.
Can I also say, with the out of context notes I have, I was like, why is Batman using this Joker grenade? Like, the whole thing was very
I will agree with you on that as well, Saoirse, that like even even in context, I'm like, surely Batman has loads of stuff of his own making that he can use to explode a door. Why does he have to use a Joker bomb for it?
It's like we've played the Arkham games. We know he has explosive gel. Like, you have to use it every 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So.
And it also looks like he throws it in like too close to Ace. I was very upset about that.
Yes.
Oh.
Oh, when Ace comes bonding out, you have a vibe. He's like, "We're done, Terry. I'm hanging out with Bruce. I don't care about you anymore." Like, Bruce never threw a grenade at me. Okay.
I gotta say though, the Ace, even just in that little bit, sent me on a little bit of a rabbit hole because I obviously you can, even out of context again, you can see that they're a team. But I was like, would Batman crop his dog's ears?
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah.
I was like, Bruce Wayne probably would, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because that's not cool.
No,
but then with the context of him having been a fighting dog, I suppose that makes sense that it could have happened in the interim.
Actually, you just reminded me, Saoirse. Isn't there an episode that deals with Ace's origin or something? Like it's
yeah. There's all he was in the dog fighting ring and stuff, and the abused dog ran away. Bruce found him in Crime Alley as well.
That's true.
Respects.
You know what? I think you're right. I think it must be that in that ring they did that to his ears.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they do that, right? I think that's the thing. I don't know too much about that world, unsurprisingly.
It's a good understated episode on old Bruce Wayne because the whole time when Ace is missing, he just has the thing of just like, what? Yeah, we'll look for him, but whatever. It's a dog. What do I care?
Yeah.
And then you see him in his private moments, and you could tell that he's absolutely devastated that his dog's gone missing. It's like, oh, Bruce, there's still a human in there somewhere.
I'm just as a comic book fan though, I have to say I'm deeply disappointed. I think it was a serious FU to the fans that they didn't have Ace's comic book accurate costume in this. With the little mask that he wears to protect his secret identity from the Silver Age. That's what they should have had that in this, man.
It's very important because people will recognize him.
They'll recognize him.
They could have had Ace with it because Terry McGinnis gets out of everything with rocket boots. Ace, it could have just had Ace with 4 rocket boots just taken off of the skylight. It's like, oh, he's fine. Don't worry about him.
Rocket paws.
Rocket paws.
I'm also just thinking how cute that is. When you see dogs with their little boots on in the winter.
Yeah.
Just add little rockets to them. Just be so cute.
Oh, that would be adorable. I remember once, because even though I'm a cat person now, I grew up with dogs. And I remember at the pet shop once, I saw there was little boots for dogs that were like fake Reeboks. And it was like Reebok. I was like, oh, that's adorable. That's so cute.
We should have had that with the Michael Keaton boots. Rebats.
Yeah. Why not? Rebats. I'd have paid extra for them.
Yeah. But yeah, Terry does reckless endangerment of his animal there. Well, Bruce's animal, I guess. Throws a grenade at the door right beside Ace. And then they manage to get out. And then, of course, ironically, the laser destroys the very thing that's actually controlling it. And so it sputters out of its own accord after we get some cool, like, nice little bit of like, 3D clown face coming straight at you kind of stuff. Like, they go to town.
Yeah.
Again, they brought in the guy from Akira. So they're just like, we're doing explosions. Get that guy to do explosions. Like, we have to go to town. This is the finale, after all.
It's a good move, but as we've talked about, they clearly went, yeah, do that, but for like 10p.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
The blue laser light cracking to a stop is just so satisfying. The way they animate it, and it just sort of sputters to death, and there's a little pop effect. It's just lovely to look at, and it's a nice kind of. I always assume that it stops because the computer console is destroyed.
Yes.
So it's like it's closing the loop. I don't know. And like I was talking to my brother about this. I was like, I was like, oh, this is such a kick-ass movie. And he was like, yeah, the ending's a bit generic though. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, well, big blue laser light in the sky. It's like every superhero movie. I was like, oh yeah, but it kind of wasn't when this came out. Like
that's it.
Probably,
yeah.
It's like the first blue laser light, isn't it?
And I know now that's the Marvel joke, but that wasn't a thing then.
Yeah. A sky beam. The sky beam got it. Yeah.
I think more GoldenEye when I see this, to be honest.
I said that in an episode, and people were like, "No, it's Akira." Yeah. I'm like, "Yeah, I know it's Akira. I know, but still."
We did also do like because the original plan was that the Joker was going to throw a giant pie on Gotham. What they originally wanted to do. It was just like I do kind of want to visit the alternate alternative universe where that was, because like, what were they planning to do with that? Like, people getting scorched by the cobbler and stuff like that. Like,
I have to refer to the said episode that I was listening to earlier on today, by the way, where you were discussing, John, I think you were saying that in the UK, when you say pie, you assume savoury pie.
It's savoury by default, unless you specify, yeah.
So now I'm just picturing Gotham just covered in like steak and kidney sauce everywhere.
Suet everywhere.
Yeah. So Tim Drake spent some time in Europe. So
Yeah.
that's what a pie is, right? It's like melding with the Joker person. Like, no, that's not what a pie is. God damn.
So I think you'll find this is actually a giant Cornish pasty.
Yeah. We'll also say as well, though, because we did many comparisons between whether it be GoldenEye or I think Jack Harvey was pointing out it's like a Moonraker thing as well, the laser.
Yeah,
It
why did I
is.
not think of Moonraker? Oh.
Is it
Yeah.
Moonraker? Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, no, Moonraker was the... No, it was Diamonds Are Forever had a giant laser, and also
it might have been what he said.
Oh,
Yeah,
maybe.
it was,
Die Another Day as well. Very has a thing called Icarus, and it's like a sunbeam laser type
Are
thing
you
that
saying
James
Bond's
Bond has to...
formulaic?
Yeah, some of them have similar plots, believe it or not. Yeah.
So after you made 45 of them, you kind of like, well, maybe he does that again.
Yeah, I just copied the second one or the third one, and then I want to remember. It's fine.
But it only kind of dawned on me here, though, looking at the explosion with the beam coming down into it. So I was saying, oh yeah, it's also a bit like, it's kind of like a little joke because it's like a Death Star and it's controlled by Luke Skywalker.
Yep.
That beam looks so much like a lightsaber as well.
Yes. Yep.
It looks almost like when it's the still I have it on at like about 48 seconds in. I remember the old novelization we used to have of Return of the Jedi, which was one. It was just like Luke's hands holding up at that point a blue lightsaber because they hadn't decided to change it to a green one yet.
Yeah.
And just reminds me of that. It's like that blue lightsaber leading up into the universe. So again, it could have been like, what's this laser going to look like? Well, it'll look like a laser, but like also. But it looks like a blue lightsaber too. So it's I don't know if it's an intentional nod, but it's there
In a movie with the letters ROTJ as well.
Yes,
Starring Mark Hamill.
Oh
I think
my
he was in
god,
that
everything's
before.
connected.
Yeah.
it's like they were really holding on. It's like he won't let us do them, but now it's been long enough. Maybe we can slip them in under the radar and stuff. But yeah, and then we do get the laser sputting out, which is, and I got a weird vibe though. Like they spend a good 10 seconds with this satellite and some ominous music of it drifting off into the void, which I guess is supposed to be the happy ending, but it also kind of had a bit of a "I'll be back" kind of vibe to it. Like, you ain't seen the last of laser over here.
I got the vibe that with the music and the way it was shot, it felt almost like we're supposed to be aware, oh yeah, there's crew on there, and they're now drifting off to their death. And you're meant to be like, oh.
I was just hoping what would it be like 200 years down the line, that satellite is rediscovered as V'ger.
Yes.
And this is all tying into Star Trek the motion picture, of course.
Which I will defend. I don't care. People go, oh, it's boring. No, you're not a Star Trek fan. Screw you.
We went to see motion picture in the cinema a couple of years ago, and it was immense. It's so cool to see on a cinema screen, that one. It's so cool.
I think it's one that deserves, like, it's designed to be seen, because I think they were answering 2001, which is a film that's designed to be seen in the cinemas. I think their whole thing is like, why it might come across as boring to people like Kevin Smith who saw it and 1987 on a crappy TV in his house, But if you were there in the cinema at the time, but it was just the grandeur of this thing. That's what it was designed for. Like, it was supposed to be. It was, we're taking that TV show and we've made it cinematic.
Well, that's the thing, right? I'm not commenting on which is a better movie, right? But the motion picture is a better Star Trek movie than Wrath of Khan.
It's more science fiction led, isn't it? And I think that it's a constant battle with Star Trek between wanting to tell, forward-thinking science fiction, daring science fiction stories, and then just comfort food. And I think a lot of the fans, when you really sit them down, all they really want is that warm, comforting feeling they got watching Next Generation when they were kids. They don't actually want it to be this sort of trailblazing science fiction anymore, which I think is a shame.
It's a shame, because that's what it is,
Yeah. And then, because I know all the stuff with V'gers and it's a kind of riff on, is it the Voyager probe and stuff like that? And I know that since they've been like, maybe V'ger was the origin of the Borg. And it's like, no, stop that.
No,
stop right there. You don't have to go down that road. Like, not everything needs to be a closed loop. Like, it just has to be. The Borg's just a thing from way out in the far reaches of the universe. You don't need to know what caused
I think you'll find William Shatner himself had a thing or two to say about that in his self-penned masterpiece, Star Trek The Return.
Oh my God, what did he say?
From the Shatnerverse series of novels, boy, are they something to read. My goodness gracious.
Are you insulting the writing of, the author of Tech War?
John, there is an audiobook version of Ashes of Eden, the Star Trek book before The Return, and it's read by William Shatner himself, and you get the distinct delight of hearing William Shatner narrate a sex scene starring himself.
Sold.
Last time I checked, it was all on YouTube, so check it out.
Brilliant.
Oh, man. This is a guy, when I go into the office every day on the train, who looks... I've sent John pictures. He looks exactly like Jim Gordon. He looks like I'm sitting across from like police commission, but he's always reading things like Tech War and stuff like that. He's sad, but he looked. I was like, yeah, he looks like Gary Oldman's Jim Gordon. He looks identical to the Greg Capullo drawings. Like he's that. Like it's and you kind of want to go to him. Like it must be deliberate. Like you can't.
You doing a thing here? Yeah.
It's like you must know you look like Commissioner Gordon. Yeah, but then it's also that thing of like. I feel a bit bad for taking pictures of a random guy on the train because it's like, well, it's a man just minding his business, you know. But
you've just reminded me. I have to tell this story on this particular episode. My mum, who very recently retired, she worked with the Irish blood transfusion service for 40 years, taking people's blood. She once took blood off a man named Terry McGuinness.
Really? Oh wow!
And she said to him, Batman, and he was like, why do people keep saying that to me? And she had to explain to him what Batman Beyond was, which I just think is amazing.
And he's like, that's not the real Batman.
It could be that he watched the show. He was like, oh, I'm not proper Batman then. Like, what the hell's this? Like, I don't want to be some teenage asshole.
I mean, I get as John Parker. People always go, Parker, like Spider-Man. I'm like, it's not funny though, because I'm not Peter. If I was Peter, fine.
Do you know what really annoyed me though? There was a kid in my school, right? And his first name was Harry, so everyone made Harry Potter jokes. Harry is not as common a name here as it would be in the UK. But guess what his second name was?
Oh God, no. What is it?
Osborne. Harry Osborne was his name. And they were all saying Harry Potter. It was like, guys, there's literally a Harry Osborne in Spider-Man. We should be making Spider-Man jokes.
Jimmy Franco is one of the biggest films in the world.
And they're all like, shut up, nerd.
You're a wizard, Harry. It was like, no, you're the Green Goblin. It really bothered me that they were bullying this kid the wrong way.
It's like, bully him correctly.
Stop getting bullying wrong.
Yeah.
I did. There's a guy. What's his name? There's a guy on Instagram as well who keeps doing like summaries of like old cartoons and stuff. But he's done a bunch of episodes of Batman Beyond. And he always starts it with like, imagine and he always calls him teenage bad boy Terry McGinnis. And I feel bad. It's so far into the season. Like, we should have been calling him teenage bad boy Terry McGinnis every time. I love the way he says it. Like, imagine you're teenage bad boy Terry McGinnis. Yeah. And all of a sudden there's a giant laser in the sky controlled by your homeboy, the Joker. And all this stuff.
Please go and edit it into the old episodes. No one will know we've changed it. It's fine.
But yeah, we do get that satellite maybe back. Like, it feels like in Justice League, did that ever come back? Like, what? It's weird that they go that way.
Oh man, I've actually written down the satellite looks like the Justice League Watchtower, doesn't it? It's almost like they reused that same CG model for the Justice League cartoon, because that did have like elements of CGI in it, that cartoon, even though it was predominantly still, paper and whatever. But that I was like, I wonder, did they just tweak that model?
They probably did. Instead of like, we didn't get that much use out of it in that film we did, but
yeah,
we need a watchtower. But
why not?
I remember when the Justice League premiered though, and they had the CGI opening titles.
Oh, so good.
And that was at the time, but like, that's amazing. What technology? And now it's just like, you can't beat that old beat-ass opening though. That's good old-fashioned 2D animation right there. That's the best you're ever gonna do, But then we we cut to the next scene, and there's a nice little treat for. I love this as a little note, because this scene was added in at the last minute at the insistence of Paul Dini. because when he was informed, like, oh yeah, we're having this big flashback scene, and this happens to Robin, and this happens to the Joker, and they're like, oh yeah, and Harley falls off a cliff and dies, and Paul Dini was like, excuse me.
Yeah.
What happens to what happens to my girl? Like, Paul Dini has such a proud ownership of Harley Quinn that he's just like, no, you're not killing off Harley in this. So upon his insistence, this little note came in, and I love everything about this now. Like, yeah, the door opens up, we find Dee Dee, as they are sat in their laurels in the holding cell. This cop looking like she's come out of a rainstorm or something. Like, it's. They've had a couple of weird police outfits in this, but this is just like, is it, is she down a torrential rainstorm somewhere? What's that? What is this outfit when you're indoors?
It's very like futuristic Sherlock Holmes kind of get up going on. It's interesting.
I like it. And I'm also just glad to see, Dee Dee and Dee Dee, I don't know, how do you talk about them? Dee Dee. I'm glad to see they survived. Because, like, yes, I know they're evil. I know, I get it. I'm not stupid. But they've got charm, right?
Yeah.
Because most of the Jokers, they're fine. I enjoyed them in the movie. But these two stand out. I think you can keep these two going.
Yeah, but they brought them into the 89 comic.
Yes, they did.
And it's just kind of like, yeah, you should be doing... We bemoan the fact throughout the season. It's like, why aren't there toys of Dee Dee?
Yeah.
Like... This is iconic stuff. Like, this is just that look there. That's it. Like, that's, instantaneously great. Like, yeah, you could be making merch out of that up the yin yang. Why aren't you taking advantage of these great characters you have that are sort of, one character joined together, I guess, kind of.
No, I'm really surprised, though, because it screams to me, it's almost like a kind of, I'm not saying it's the same kind of character, but it's almost like a second coming of a Harley. Like, oh, you've hit gold here. Like,
well, I mean...
Just
wow.
Appropriate chunks to bring that up, John.
That's probably why it's on the brain.
On the topic of Harley, right? So this is a woman who was accessory to murder many times. And she herself has probably murdered a bunch of people. So she just lived out her days, just peacefully reformed and didn't have to, go to jail for the rest of her life?
Well,
Question mark.
Nana
I kind of
Harley.
thought that was... I think that is a real note they're emphatic thing they're placing. It's just like, yeah, she's, I gave you a home and this is how you repay me. It does seem like, yeah, Harley really changed her ways after.
Turned it all around, yeah.
After falling off that cliff or whatever.
Yeah, but I understand there's redemption and all this, but I think she might be a bit too far gone now.
Yeah.
Maybe.
This was, as I put a pin in there earlier, this is one of the changes where this version, I would say they're almost too subtle in that, like, you have to infer from her voice, except at the end when they literally say Nana Harley.
Yeah.
They really let you know who it is. But in the cut version, they changed her outfit to be all black and red, so you would really know that it was Harley Quinn. And then in the uncut version, it's back to, like, it's kind of like a, it just looks like she looks like a generic granny.
Well, she looks like my gran.
Yeah. And so people had to come in and have that conversation. Like, it's she's wearing a purple dress, which is very Jokery, I guess. Maybe it's a little bit of the Joker spirit still in there. But I would have assumed they would change it to she's not wearing red and black, because it's like, no, that's a whole other part of my life. I don't wear red and black anymore.
In the cut version, does she still give them the smack across the ass with the with the walking stick?
I think that's snipped out as well. The caning, like it's old school, because Gotham of the 90s, of course, took place in the 1940s when it was okay to smack kids in the ass with a stick and stuff.
It wasn't just okay, it was expected.
The good old days.
And then, of course, 40 years later, it advanced 90 years or whatever. And it's now we're in the far future. But
well, in today's woke society, we can't hit our own children. It never did me any harm getting beaten.
Yeah. But
okay. Is this predicting that we're going to come full circle on that, though, I wonder?
Oh, God. Oh, no, I hope not. Anyone who says it never did me any harm, I'm always like, did it not, though? Like, look at yourself.
The fact that you're saying that
feels like it might have harmed you.
Look in the mirror, have a think.
Usually when people say something or something never hurt anybody, it's usually talking about something that did. Like,
yeah.
So I remember in the Young Ones, the episode where they have, like, the flat gets flooded. And Rick going like, "Oh, little rain never hurt anybody." It's like, rain's caused floods, man. Like, rain has hurt people. What are you talking about?
That's a good point.
Well, that's
Oh,
I feel like any world where they have this laser defense system that can just destroy cities, they must have had there must have been kind of an upswing of kind of conservative mentality in general, that kind of way. So I feel like maybe they did swing back around to capital punishment at one stage.
God, oh no.
Oh, I think that's what that was Bruce's. It's like, I can't be Batman anymore. But if I bring back like caning in schools, maybe I can beat it out of the criminals before they become criminals.
That's his new move. Yeah, we need to bring it back.
It's like, but Bruce, wouldn't that traumatize children? It's like, I was traumatized as a child, and what harm did that ever do me? Like, I turned out great.
I'm perfectly normal. There's nothing wrong with Bruce Wayne / Batman.
You could have a world of Bruce Waynes. Everyone would love that.
All this talk of caning is reminding me of this really specific sketch from Ali G in The House, like a million years ago, where Ali G was interviewing this conservative politician who was trying to bring back caning. But Ali G was talking about caning as if it was smoking weed, I guess, because cane, and it was kind of just this, and the politician didn't know that, and it was, anyway. It's
I remember that one. I think he's talking about cocaine because he keeps going like,
okay,
so you're into caning, and it goes like he sniffs off his finger as if that's what he's indicating. Like, got it. And the guy's like, oh no, yeah, very much so.
You don't hear that
Ali G's just like, you are. Oh man, like, giving out a handshake and stuff.
You don't hear that anymore, do you? Caning it.
Yeah, I think I might have been a very regional London kind of like, it would have been from Staines, that kind of thing, like, where Ali G was set.
It's probably where I learned it, to be honest.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, so we're going to have to pause here a second. Because everything about the revelation of... Well, also, I want to put a pin in the fact that, like, because I know you two, Saoirse and Rob, are currently mid-rewatching Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Yeah.
And now we've got a chunk here with Melissa Joan Hart. But there's also just the gigantic elephant in the room of everything this implies in terms of Harley Quinn lore for BTAS, because she survived, she's a grandmother. The Dee Dee's name is their names are Delia and Deirdre Dennis. So Harley had a Quinn with someone and had a kid, and then she became a grandmother. And there's some person in there called, with the last name Dennis, who's not the Joker. And it just opens up so many, like, who was Dee Dee's parents? Who did Harley hook up with after? Are they still in the picture? And then I've got my own fan theories and stuff as to what's going on here, because obviously the world's changed quite a bit. Because this is back in you had the pairing of Harley and Ivy, but it wasn't the sort of, the LGBT iconic kind of thing that it is now. Yeah. But I think this all still works in, like, you can tie this into BTAS lore and stuff, because I've got my own stuff. Like, but like, anyone out there, have you ever sat and thought, like, what happened here to Harley afterwards? Do you think she just met some generic guy and just went and led a very boring life, or do you think there's more to this? Like, who are Dee Dee's parents? Who sired Dee Dee? I
think personally, Dennis might just be a name, like a cover name or something like that, and maybe they're just related. Everyone's related to the Joker, and she was pregnant at the end of the flashback there.
Yeah,
I like that better, because if she's met someone else, that's weird to it. But then again, I suppose if she meets someone else, maybe that's the person who turns her life around or something.
Yeah, it could be.
But also interesting, because she obviously had spoken about not wanting to go through pregnancy. So that's an interesting kind of. Are they blood related, or are they?
That's an excellent point. Why are we assuming they are? She could have adopted them.
Yeah. Well, she's just saying, like, I gave you a home. Like, as it could be, like, I took you in, learning a lesson from Bruce Wayne himself.
Exactly.
Like, I took in some wayward kids, and then they had them. There could be, like, she runs a whole foster home. And it's just like, Nana Harley's is a foster home that, like, all these kids are coming into.
I could weirdly see that. If you want to turn Harley good, I could see that as a future for her.
Yeah.
Or their surname is Dennis. Maybe she just got with Hugh Dennis from Mock the Week.
Oh, God, that's obviously what it is. Absolutely.
Of course, the co-star of My Hero with Ardal O'Hanlon.
That's good.
Yeah. Tell you what,
that's where I remember him from.
As a kid, once Ardal O'Hanlon was in it, I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah, I can't even remember. It was the guy from the Thin Blue Line took over, right?
Yeah, it was fine, but it's like, well, it's not the same though.
Yeah.
God,
I was
have
watching
not,
it
I've
because
not
I'm
heard
like, it's
anyone.
Dougal. You know?
I have not heard anyone refer to My Hero in 25 years.
Oh, I was hooked on it back.
That show was rumored to exist.
I
I
was
was
hooked
there.
on it, genuinely, because I was such a Father Ted fan. I'm like, well, it's Dougal. You know?
Yeah.
As a superhero?
And
Yeah.
you realize, like, oh, I think different people made this, and that's why he's not. Everything he's saying is not as funny as it was. As something Dougal would say.
As a kid, I'm
Maybe.
stupid though. Like I love the Britas Empire because I'm like, well, it's Rimmer from Red Dwarf, you know.
My personal fan theory with this is, and I think it all does tie in quite well, is that because we see Dee Dee and they've got like the Raggedy Ann red hair, which we are assuming is a wig, but like we don't know for sure that that's a wig or not. And obviously nowadays the kind of the OTP is Harley and Ivy. And there's a big fan theory going around that's kind of been confirmed in spin-off comics from BTAS that, because obviously Pamela Isley in BTAS was a human who used to put on lipstick in order to poison people, etc., but she was a human person. And then when they got to the new Batman Adventures, she looked very different. She had the completely white skin and much more
Plants-like.
Yeah, much more plant-like. She could control plants. It seemed as if her actual body was a toxin. And then as they went into the comics, it was like her hair was vines. It seemed like she was, she had become a plant lady. And there's whole videos on like the Watchtower database about like them trying. Those guys go too far, quite frankly. It's interesting, listen, but they go too far. But within the comics that spun off, there was a big reveal that, like, the new Batman Adventures, Ivy goes to visit Alec Holland, of course, Swamp Thing. And then while she's there, she just disintegrates.
Ooh.
And then the old school Pamela Isley comes out. And it's just like, oh, and Alec Holland's like, what the hell's going on here? And he's like, oh, yeah, that's like a plant clone that I left back in Gotham to tussle with Batman because no one would know where I was. And then she actually specifically says, and I left it for Harley as well because the poor thing gets so lonely and stuff like that. And so it's kind of a weird thing of her like, oh yeah, I just gave this weird plant. I don't care about Harley, but I just gave her like another Ivy to deal with. Like there's your own cake to ruin, like that kind of thing. So it was revealed as like this whole time that maybe potentially that Ivy was not the real Pamela Isley, and we know from of course the classic episode House and Garden, which is one of the most horrific episodes of a kids' TV show that's ever aired. It was legitimately terrifying. As a child, it's legitimately... yeah, oh my God. So frightening now as an adult watching it. Rewatched it when we did Batman and Robin. It's like, Jesus Christ, how did they get that on TV? But we know that Ivy can create animal-human hybrids.
Yeah, true.
And so my thinking is that Dee Dee and Dee Dee's parents were... Ivy and Harley got together, and Ivy made them children. And that's why she's got red hair. It's because there's elements of Harley's DNA, there's elements of Ivy's DNA, and then they created these children together.
What
and
the hell?
Wherever Ivy is now, we don't know.
I like that.
But my thinking is like you can slot that easily into canon as being like, yeah, Harley and Ivy hooked up, and Dee Dee is their genetic. And it could be a thing as well. Like, there's been Dee Dees throughout the years. Like initially, there was Dee Dees back 40 years ago. And they were their parents, and then they just made new Dee Dees down the line. And they're like, oh, we're too old now. Yeah, I'm Nana Harley then. That kind of attitude.
Cool.
Like,
Speaking of slotting things in, I thought you were going to say that Poison Ivy used her crazy plant powers to like actually impregnate Harley.
Oh,
like,
whoa.
no?
Sort of like Mystique. They've done this thing now in X-Men where previously Nightcrawler's parents were Mystique and I can't remember, was it Azazel or someone like that, but now they've retconned it that actually both of his parents were women and that Mystique was the father.
No.
So I thought it was going to be something like that. I thought you were going to throw something like that out, but no, I really like that idea. Yeah, that they're plant creatures.
That would
That's
be
cool.
quite fascinating. I could see them going down that route one day.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
There's also too because all their acrobatics as well kind of makes sense. Of being like, oh yeah, because Harley's all acrobats as well. But then it's like, yeah. And we never see them bleed. They could be cut, and then green ooze comes out of them or something. But
Do they have a little bit of super strength in one bit as well? Am I remembering that correctly? Near the start in the fight.
they seem like they can really handle themselves. I don't know if it's a supernatural level, but although I did find because now we're essentially at the last main chunk. There was an old interview with Paul Dini from back in like 2001 with I think it was like Starburst magazine or something like, and then it's been archived now in the world's finest database. And in that, he goes into, they ask him like, so what happened to all the old Batman villains? And he gives an answer for most of them.
Oh wow!
And so I've got them down here because they're all very succinct little ones. So I love his one for Harley. Again, this is a man who loved Harley Quinn. He says, so whatever happened to Harley Quinn? He said, Bruce Timm and I have joked that at some point we were going to have a news broadcast that says, today President Quinzel announced it was our intent that if anything happened to Harley, she'd have cleaned up and become president of the United States or something. So yeah, his vision was like Harley would always have turned straight. She would have always been like, become an upright citizen, you know, join the Upright Citizens Brigade. When asked about Bane, he basically says like, yep, it's the whole thing. They became hooked on Venom, had to wear a gas mask all the time. What they did in the show, that was always the idea.
That's so dark, that bit in the show when you see him. It's just, that really scared me straight as a kid. I was like, I'm never touching drugs.
I don't know if you've seen that, John, but there's an episode where kids are hooked on like a new version of Venom, and they try. Bruce is like, well, it must be something to do with Bane.
Oh, this sounds new to me. I haven't seen this one.
Slappers, John.
Yes,
by the way.
slappers.
They're called slappers.
And they find Bane in an old folks' home, and he's wheelchair bound, and he's just comatose with a gas mask on, pumping venom into him because his body's become so dependent on it that he's basically like a vegetable that just is sitting.
So he's he's on heroin, basically. He has to take it.
And the implication is like, he destroyed himself with the venom. It's like, so it's a good, don't do drugs, kids. Then whatever happened to Killer Croc? He's stuffed and mounted in the exhibition of the reptile wing in the American Museum of Natural History.
What?
Which is the ongoing disrespect that the B-Task crew had towards Killer Croc, where he was always treated as like this lunkhead of an asshole of a villain.
They really hate him, don't they? Oh my god!
I throw a rock at him.
Yeah. Although again, I always love in that though. When you think about it, that's not actually Killer Croc saying that. That's Batman mocking Killer Croc.
This is something he would say.
Like, that idiot wouldn't have known. All he would have is throwing a rock at me because that's all he's got. Mr. Freeze, who of course they went on and did an episode about, but at this point, they say, we were going to have an episode where Bruce Wayne opens his freezer, Mr. Freeze's head is in there in a jar, and he just says, someday, Wayne, someday I will turn your bones to ice. I will, and Bruce just slams the door and walks away. And again, that's what we wanted to do, but we're doing something else because this is coming out as the show is airing. Whatever happened to the Penguin? He gave up the nightclubs and now runs a daycare center. He's doing it just for the kids. They call him Uncle Pengy.
Oh my god, what the hell?
Poison Ivy is here. So she moved to South America and took over the rainforest.
Wait, took over? Like it's a business?
She's now part of the rainforest. Okay. We're thinking she's mutated into some sort of quasi-human, quasi-plant-based form of life.
Amazing.
What's that biggest mycelium network of mushrooms? That's like miles wide.
There you go.
Is it like that kind of a thing?
That kind of thing, exactly. She will become one with the green.
I was just about like Swan Thing, yeah.
Well, I now need to look this up before you move on.
This is really interesting because, like, as a kid, I remember thinking like they need to do more episodes based on what happened to the old villains. But now, in retrospect, I'm actually glad that they were kind of. They resisted that urge and they just told original stories for the most part, and it was like a special event when it was like the Bane episode or the Mr. Freeze episode or whatever, because you just know if this was made now, every single episode will be that. It would be like, okay, we have to bring out the fan service, that everyone has to know what happened to Harvey Dent and all this kind of stuff. Did they mention Harvey Dent in that at all?
Speaking of which, whatever happened to Two-Face? He got cleaned up, went back to practicing law, moved to LA, and is now working as a lawyer for a major motion picture studio. He's doing very well. Being Two-Faced really paid off.
Yeah.
And one we have mentioned on the show before, actually, because I remember finding out during the Mask of the Phantasm run, whatever happened to the Riddler. He's now running a men's clothing store with his close personal friend, the Mad Hatter.
Oh, isn't that
the implication being that, like, Jervis and Edward found each other, which is really nice. That's a really nice.
No, they were just good friends and roommates.
They were just good friends. They were just good friends.
Yeah,
That's lovely. I think John Glover would sign off on that.
Yeah. John Glover, of course, living with his own very good friend, who he occasionally accidentally posts pictures of.
I've mentioned a couple of times, John Glover's social media is so funny because on Twitter, it's clearly not him. It's clearly like his convention agent or something, because it's always just talking about release the Schumacher cut or, specific factoids about comic book movies that John Glover obviously doesn't care about. But then you look at his Instagram and that is absolutely actually him, because it's all just these lovely peaceful pictures of him and his husband going to art galleries and sipping wine. Aww. And very occasionally like really risque stuff that maybe he shouldn't be posting.
He's horny on Maine, is he?
There's one where
horny on Maine,
like his dick hanging out, and it's like, you didn't mean to post that. Like that's clearly an accidental post.
Was
like,
that meant to be a private message to someone?
Yeah, I meant to send it to someone, and then I was like, oh boy.
Hey, you know what? If you do it by accident, own it.
Yeah. I think he's John Glover's a great interviewer. He's absolutely amazing in interviews, because he is very just open and proud about everything. Like he was the one we talked about during the Batman and Robin season, of course. Because
of course.
The information I still am reeling from, that like he was briefly in a relationship with William Atherton.
Not just that.
No,
he on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast, he was like, "Who's that? Who's that British musician, the guy with the mustache?"
that's right.
Freddie Mercury? And he was like, "Yeah, I fucked him."
Imagine just casually being like, Freddie something, that guy.
Yeah.
And apparently he came into the makeup room in Smallville one time, and Michael Rosenbaum was listening to Hall & Oates, and he just goes up to him and says, "Oh, is that a Hall & Oates? I fucked the little one." Sorry, Niall. I'm sorry. You're gonna have to beep those.
No, you can't censor John Glover. Those will have to go uncut.
But actually, I don't know if this has ever come up before, but there's a movie there's like a JFK miniseries from back when miniseries were like a big thing on American TV. And it stars Martin Sheen, John Glover, Kevin Conroy, and John Shea, who played Lex Luthor in Lois and Clark. So it's really kind of, all these DC things kind of crossing over. So John Glover and Kevin Conroy were the best of friends for decades.
Okay, so we're going to cover that as a bonus episode.
Yeah. I think it's literally called JFK. And there's a really cool picture of Kevin Conroy, Martin Sheen, and John Shea together on the set of that. So check it out.
It's my kind of thing.
And of course, then once we cover that, we'll have to go on the RFK Jr. Celebrity Cruise.
Oh boy,
been heavy on social media.
Yeah, he's took a turn. I mean, he already was a bit
fan
strange.
favorite actor Zachary Levi.
Some fan might be his favorite.
I loved him in that first one, and then he got weird.
That's Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I love Zachary Levi. I was like, I think he was a great character in that. And then, that first Shazam movie, he is good.
Yeah,
it's just
great.
Recent, just the last year or two, it's like, oh boy, you just need to stop doing stuff, Zach.
Well, something I didn't stop was researching this thing about the mycelium. I found it. So it's a mushroom in Oregon. It's the largest fungal colony in the world. It is 3.5 miles, square miles. It is estimated to be 8,000 years old, and it weighs 35,000 tons.
Oh boy!
It's the biggest living organism on the planet.
Amazing. Yeah.
So I was thinking of that kind of a thing with ivy.
Poison ivy.
Yeah. I still do think. I think we mentioned it in the Batman and Robin season, but I think Matt Reeves is doing a Poison Ivy. It needs to be like she's like a Hannibal-esque kind of character who's like taking men and then like burying them in the soil so they become one with the plants and all that. Like they're using their body for nutrients and stuff like that. It's like making them part of the mycelium.
I also think talking about villains gone good or whatever. I think it'd be great to see that in the context of like her really getting revenge on anyone who tries to destroy any more of the rainforest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, she's one of those characters who, I know it's a bit stereotypical, cheesy to say this, let's say, but you're kind of on her side most of the time.
Yeah,
you're
totally.
You're not trying to be evil. You're trying to protect the planet,
Yeah. It would be like, I'm surprised they didn't go into art, like, because if Ivy did become like a weird plant lady. it would just have been a good like episode of Terry having to go to the rainforest to like track her down, and so it could just be in contrast to like the heavy cyberpunk, future we got going on. To be like, no, he doesn't have the, he doesn't have the big purple sky and stuff to hide under. He's just like, there's Batman walking around walking around the rainforest and stuff.
Well, you could even go a bit cyberpunk with the plot, and it's like, this is the last rainforest on Earth.
Yeah.
And she is the one keeping it going. It's the only sort of natural forest around.
Oh, that's a slight tangent, but I only found out like the other day that Thomas Dolby, who wrote like she blinded me with science.
Oh yeah.
He did all the music for Fern Gully.
Whoa, wait, what? No.
Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest, all that toxic love with Tim Curry. And the original Robin Williams as an animated sidekick, a year or two before Aladdin. All the songs written by Thomas Dolby. It's like, wow. And he set up his because he's a kind of musical advancing genius in terms of like trying to create new soundscapes. His company invented the Nokia ringtone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But then like, I mentioned that to someone at work, but she plays like classical guitar, and she was like, but then that actual like the like that's from a Spanish piece, because I know that piece.
Okay. He's taking inspiration from things. That's fine.
I think it's more like he created the technology in order to make the polyphonic sound and stuff, that kind of thing.
But, and if you want to, listeners, if you want to hear us talk more about Thomas Dolby, we did talk about him on our Patreon briefly.
Of course, yeah. He's in Rockula. Yeah, we did a whole episode on. Yeah, crazy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so I'm still almost not ready to move on to the fact that like, so Harley Quinn is Dee Dee's grandmother,
and she's a stereotypical grandma. That's the funny thing to me.
Also, the question to me was like, did they know who the Jokers were the whole time? Did they bring in Dee Dee and were like, fingerprint them, and then they were finally able to go, they're these people, or was it the whole time was Terry McGinnis like, that's the friggin' Dennis twins from school, and Bonk's friggin' some asshole I know who dropped out and all, like were their identities a secret, or is this all was it common knowledge of like, Ghoul is just freaking dweeby old Tim asshat, from chemistry class or whatever. Like, it's
Do you see this particular gang of Jokers in the series prior to this movie? Because I remember that there was Jay, the guy that you see a lot, who basically just looks like the Joker.
Yeah.
And then there was one or two others, but I don't recall ever seeing these guys in the show.
They show up in the Justice League two-parter, because we talked about it. Might have literally been just last episode. The Once and Future thing, where Kronos goes into the future, and you have versions of Dee Dee that can like multiply, so there's like 50 of them.
Oh wow!
And they like literally tear Terry McGinnis apart with whips and stuff. Like it gets pretty crazy.
That's cool.
But
the multiple Dee Dees also feeds a little bit into the plant theory. Just thinking of propagation and
It's like I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to spread that like seeds into the wind of like Dee Dee or plant people. Like that's what's happening there. But of course, though, voiced by someone we touched on briefly there, Melissa Joan Hart. And again, whose idea amongst the two of you was it to be like, we're going back and watching all of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, like, the Kiernan Shipka version? No, the old 90s, which I'm sure is not dated a day. It's just way back when.
It was actually Saoirse's idea. You wanted to watch episodes, didn't you?
Yeah, I think I've been talking about it for a while, and then we recently moved into our house that's very nearby to where my nanny's house was growing up, and I have really fond memories of watching Sabrina in her house because she had Nickelodeon, and we didn't have it at home, so I used to watch. And I also remember Clarissa was also being reshown around that time. So I just have a very I love Clarissa, but
it's amazing.
Just there's just a connection when we kind of moved to this area. It just reminded me, and that's how we got started on it again. But some really like classic episodes that I completely forgotten about that we rewatched recently, and then some that I do not remember at all, which is always nice to kind of throw in those extra ones.
Yeah, there was a Christmas one that I have absolutely no memory of, and then I think the reason for that was on Nickelodeon growing up, they never showed the Christmas episodes of things except when it actually was Christmas. So there was like certain episodes of things that you'd never see until Christmas time rolled around again. And I think that must have been in the mix of those. But the main thing I'm noticing going back to Sabrina, not to go too off topic, but there's loads of like Mr. Kraft jokes that I just did not get as a kid, and like they really, really make fun of Republicans in it a lot, like by way of him, and like they mentioned that he votes Republican, and he's just laughably kind of conservative in it in ways that I never really understood as a kid. And Martin Mull, man.
Isn't that the thing though? Because I think Melissa Joan Hart herself now is like very Christian and very right wing as well. So.
She's in God's Not Dead too. I don't think she's like on the same level of like your Dean Cains or your Kevin Sorbos, but I think she's pretty conservative and pretty God-fearing.
This whole thing is you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. It's like they could mock Mr. Kraft way back when, but like she's become that now, But
the show's gone woke.
Although I always remember like hearing back in this was when you didn't have like ready internet access, but like they're saying the reason that Hilda and Zelda didn't feature as much later on, and the reason that Penn Jillette, because it was obviously he was the head of the Witches Council and stuff in it. Penn Jillette, very outspoken atheist, and there was always a rumor that he wasn't about. I think actually it was Paul Feig came out with this, that he was because he was Mr. Poole. And then in season 1, and then he just doesn't appear anymore. And I think Paul Feig at one point, I have a vague memory of this, reading an interview years ago, and him been like, yeah, that was because Melissa Joan Hart's very, very religious.
Wow.
And she didn't like that me and Penn Jillette were both atheists, and we were kind of like, not mocking her beliefs, but we were kind of like, well, whatever. Like, and she was like, no. But it's just weird because it's a show about a teenage witch. And the whole thing,
it's so blasphemous.
Yeah. So it's all just like, the other like where's your God now in the other realm, Melissa? What's happening there with all that? But and this is in the era when they were like friggin' trying to shut down Harry Potter because that was against God and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, now all those people like it.
Yeah,
I remember I said this to Saoirse when we were watching Sabrina. As a kid, I was a big Harry Potter guy back in the day. I read all the books and all that. But there was a line in one of the books where Ron says that, or someone, Hermione, whatever, they established that in the world of Harry Potter, electricity and electronic things don't work around magic. Like it interferes with it or something like that. And that just sort of, I was like, well, that's a bit lame. So like, there's no TV in Harry Potter. There's no all the stuff that we have, that they just don't have because they have their own kind of old school magic versions of things. But in Sabrina, technology and magic crosses over all the time, and they have like magical like
with the Hoover,
the Hoover, and the like we watched one the other day where Hilda has a haunted treadmill. Like, they found all these cool ways, and then there's the one where Salem gets the replica of the rocket ship, and he's flying around in it. Like, and there's just so much more kind of inventive uses of technology in that. So that was always my preferred. I was like, if I had magical powers, I'd want it to be the Sabrina type of magic instead of Harry Potter.
Definitely, yeah. Why? I don't want to give up my computers and telly and everything.
Yeah. It's still so much of fun. Yeah, because that was the big thing. Because I watched all of, me and John both did, watched all of the chilling adventures of Sabrina with Kiernan Shipka. And the thing is, it was fine. Like it's designed to be sort of cheesecake trash for teenagers, basically. Like it's a lot of all the boys are insanely hot and they're all wearing unbuttoned shirts all the time, that kind of thing.
It's from like it's basically Riverdale. It's the same creative team and all that, isn't it?
It's the Riverdale effect. It's not fun. It's not original.
It's weird because Sabrina been a tie-in Archie character. It's weird that they didn't do any like, here's Josie and the Pussycats will show up for an episode or something. Like, there's never went there.
I think they were thinking of bringing Sabrina onto Riverdale at one stage, and then they didn't or something, wasn't it?
I think they did because it was after the show had ended, and then they're like, well, Sabrina the character was dead, and it was like, no, she's back now, she's in Riverdale.
Wait, she did show up
she showed up post her own death in the show. I was just like, she's fine now.
And it was Kiernan Shipka, was it?
Yeah, it was Kiernan Shipka. I think it was like literally like the next year. It was just like, she's fine.
Riverdale's another one I love though, even though it's trash. It's absolutely terrible, and I love it. I don't care. It's fantastic. It's absurd. Why is everyone clearly 25 and a model? Don't know.
Yeah. But the thing is,
we won't stand on ceremony. We watched all 10 seasons of Beverly Hills 90210.
But then I would always say, because it was such a big thrill though in the Chile, because they were always very like sparing with their references to the old show. But then I remember like at the start of one season they had Kiernan Shipka standing in front of a mirror doing the finger thing and changing her outfits.
Yeah.
And they're playing Devo is the girl you want. I was just like, this is everything. I love Devo. I love that old show. I'm loving this. This is incredible. But then they made the big weird mistake where they had Salem talking in like the last season, and they brought back the old Hilda and Zelda. But it wasn't Nick Bakay doing Salem, so it's like, well, this is a waste of time then. Like,
I still liked it. It was still good.
It's like, if it's not Nick Bakay, get out of here. Like,
Maybe there's a reason. Maybe he didn't want to do it. I don't know.
Speaking of not Nick Bakay, have you watched the original pilot TV movie of Sabrina the Teenage Witch?
I did.
Oh,
way
I
back
haven't.
when, yeah.
And Ryan Reynolds is in it? We rewatched that recently, and I'd forgotten how much darker it is than the actual show, and also how much more adult it is than the actual show. There's a lot more kind of sexy stuff in it.
That was my main memory of it. We'll stress, I was a 13, 14-year-old when I was watching this. I remember very vividly, there's a lot of scenes of Melissa Joan Hart in swimsuits. Like, a montage of her and Jenny going and buying bikinis and stuff. Because that was just... in retrospect, it's very sleazy because it was just like, it's obviously middle-aged people going, get those hot girls in their swimsuits. That's going to sell this thing. But yeah, as a impressionable young teen, I remember that scene quite vividly from way back when. Because that kind of stuff wasn't on the show. You never would have got that kind of that level of sexiness on the actual show then.
Speaking of people being 25, the guy playing Harvey in the TV movie, and Harvey is a very different character in it. He's far more of an underdog. Like, he's not the hunk that he was in the show. But the guy playing Harvey is 40. Like, he couldn't be any younger. He's so old, that guy. The hair on the back of his arms, so old.
Well, this is so off topic. I don't care. Whatever.
Yeah,
Good luck editing
guys.
this now. But no, when we watched Terminator yesterday, we both turned to each other in the cinema because it's when he goes and kills the first Sarah Connor. And then you get the news report, and it's like, Sarah Connor, 35, mum of 2. And you're like, she's 50. She's 50.
Oh, man. But yeah. So again, though, just to finally close the loop on and Harley being Dee Dee's grandma. I just wonder now, though, if there was ever an off-camera scene, though, if they didn't know who they were already, or if they did, like. At some point then they're like, oh, so these Jokers, this Jokers gang, this faction. Okay, so that's Delia and Deirdre Dennis, and then Bruce just going through their records, and then like, so their parents are, and then seeing the name like Harleen pop up, and then like, wait a minute, what? Like, that's where she's been this whole time? Because we don't know if Bruce has been looking for Harley. Assumed dead. Barbara assumed her to be dead, but then as we see later on in this very chunk, Barbara's quite like, whatever about a lot of things. So
I would say then that Bruce definitely knew, but he didn't subject anyone else to that information because it was need to know, basically, as far as he was concerned. That's a very Bruce Wayne thing to do.
Yeah, it's fair because Bruce in BTAS, like obviously the episode Harley's Holiday, where he seems to genuinely wish her the best, as then like, I hope you gives her a handshake when she gets out of Arkham, and it's like, and then when she has to go back in, and he has a little bit, he gives her the dress and stuff. He's like, I'm rooting for you. Like, I believe you can get better. So there could also be like, maybe he's like, no, the Joker's gone. She's not a danger anymore. But at the same time, what she was complicit in doing to Tim Drake in that flashback is like, no, the lady deserves to be locked up for life for that.
Totally.
Like, it's insane.
There's no getting out of it. No.
Yeah. It's like she'll be fine. No, you can't guarantee that. Who knows what other kid she's going to take off the street, and God knows what she's going to do to them.
Well, we're assuming she's in the right here, and she's scolding them, but maybe she made them this way.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Ooh.
It's a good let that one marinate with people there for a second.
Well, we got an ooh, So maybe she did. Maybe she influenced them in some ways, and she's annoyed because they got caught.
That's all a bit weird though. Then be like, I guess if you used to be like like being a motorbike gang back in the 50s, and then in the 70s, for whatever reason, well, not even in the 80s, late 80s, for whatever reason, your grandchildren are now in a motorbike gang, and they're dressing like old school 50s greasers, and you've been like, oh no, I was an idiot back then. Like that's the kind of vibe is like. They're kind of, it's almost like a weird rebellion that they're like, oh yeah, we're related to Harley Quinn, but we're part of the Joker's gang, and then it's like it's bringing shame to Harley's house. They'll be like, no, don't trudge all that back up again. Like, what are you doing? You know?
That would work though if she wasn't literally a murderer and child torturer.
This is what I keep coming back to.
Yeah, there's a line.
I'm just assuming that if she had been in prison, that at this time overcrowding is still such an issue that they had to let her out early.
Yes.
It's but anyhow, shall we move on from the? Well, to say, like, would you folks rather she had been in the Red and Black, or are we all cool with the?
I mean, I think so. You know, as a kind of a fair weather fan, I would say it was sort of obvious to me once she spoke to them. Or even just seeing that she was there and the kind of the shadow that's projected on the wall, like you can see that she's significant. So it's like, oh, okay, obviously it's Harley.
This is going to be someone. Yeah.
It would have been nice. It would have been nice just to have that little extra touch.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think that what she's wearing is a bit generic, and it's like, would old ladies really dress like that in 2040 as well? It's not like future old. So I think tying it back in with her original look would have maybe worked a bit better. It's almost like they changed it because they thought it was too on the nose.
I think that might have been their thing, was like, yeah, it's too obvious now. They have her, but at the same time, like I think if you'd missed that Nana Harley line, Arlene Sorkin, iconic as voice as it is, you might not have picked up that was who it was supposed to be.
Oh yeah, I did until they said, because I'm stupid.
But also, just a final note of it though, I wish like if Bruce had pieced together that Dee Dee's parents or that Dee Dee's grandmother was Harley Quinn, he would just get a picture of that old lady and be like, wait a minute. And he get out his red and black pencil, and he would just draw like the jester hat on, and oh no,
world's greatest detective.
He's been foiled.
But anyway, so we move on now to second two of the chunk.
Yes, you carry on. By the way, I'm just running off to grab some water because my throat's gone a bit bad. But carry on, as if I haven't left.
So yeah, then we get Tim Drake here, holed up in the old hospital wing, finally recovering. Barbara coming in and kind of doing like a very hand wavy kind of like, oh no, Joker's gone, you're fine now. It's like, again, Barbara, you assumed Harley was dead. She spawned grandchildren that were the Jokers. Like, you probably should have looked into that. Yeah. And also, let's just bet that Tim's better now. And coming in, like, what do you say to this? It's implied that she's covered everything up for him as well. But what do you say to the hospital? Like, oh yeah, he got electrocuted, I guess. Could you also check to see if there's any remnants of a microchip?
Yeah.
Containing DNA altering technology and potentially the spirit of the Joker that somehow is inside. Like, what do you say in that scenario? It's just like, make sure he's okay.
Didn't they retcon somewhere in Justice League or somewhere else that the technology Joker is using in this is Cadmus tech from Justice League?
Oh, did they? I don't know if I've come across that, actually. No.
Or maybe it's just like a commonly regarded fan theory or something like that. So I'm wondering, is this like a secret government kind of hospital that he's in? Oh no, it does just say Gotham Hospital, doesn't it, outside? Yeah, so no, yeah. But actually, maybe there is some kind of government cover up stuff going on here, because like, the laser wreaking havoc on the city is like a serious thing to have happened. Like, the government would have had to have stepped in at some stage. It's hardly just the jurisdiction of the GCPD.
I would rather have they explicitly said, like, maybe Barbara comes in and is like, no, there's people taking care of this. They're looking into the. Even although at this point, I guess they hadn't made Justice League, so they wouldn't outright say Cadmus, but like it would be. Although speaking of fan theories, though, one I meant to bring up about Dee Dee's origin is that, because obviously years later there was a very controversial scene where in the movie Batman and Harley Quinn, which is canon. It's a terrible film, but it's canon in the DCAU. And in that, they brought back Kevin Conroy and Lauren Lester, and they didn't bring back Arlene Sorkin to do Harley's voice. It was a lady from Big Bang Theory, and it was a bit weird. But the big controversial scene where Harley has Nightwing tied to a bed, and then is flirting up a storm with him, very overly sexualized Bruce Timm influenced, all just cheesecake on display. And the big implication is that Harley seduces and shags Nightwing while he's tied to the bed. And people are very like, this is wrong because he's tied up and stuff. And when you're watching the scene, he is kind of like, it's implied he's consenting to it all. So it's not that bad, but like a lot of people are like, no, it's completely wrong. But a fan theory is also that she got pregnant from that. And Dee Dee is Dick Grayson's offspring.
Oh, that'd be great.
And that would explain why they're so good at acrobatics. It's because they've got the Flying Grayson's blood in them and stuff. So there you go.
I like that, weirdly. Even though I don't like the plot of the other one, I kind of... it's hard for me to describe. Like, that plot you've described is bad, but I like that they might be his kids. Like, it's strange.
That's why Nightwing's not around. He's like, I'm skipping town. Harley, I'm going out for a pack of cigarettes.
He doesn't want to make any payments, He's like child support. No.
That's why the Dee Dees joined the Jokers. That's why they hate Batman so much. It's like, that asshole. His sidekick, they never showed up. It'll just be like they have their own Fresh Prince episode where like Dick Grayson comes back for one episode and stuff. Vows he's going to take them on his trucking route with them or whatever. And Nana Harley has to be the Uncle Phil stand-in for it and stuff. Like, I'm turning myself around to this concept now. I think I quite like it. So.
Sold.
Anywho. So, good old Dean Stockwell here as Tim Drake once more. And I like, Terry just very nonchalantly giving away his identity. Didn't have to... Again, it's another little kind of note in what's happening here with the characters in that... Because later on, Terry's shocked that Bruce shows up to see Tim, because Bruce wouldn't do that normally. Terry would, though. Like, he doesn't know Tim Drake, and Tim Drake doesn't know that he's Batman. Then he never needs to know. But Terry is the kind of guy who will show up to be like, I'm just here to make sure you're okay. And be like, it was me. I was Batman. Like, we're simpatico because you were Robin. You know my secret. I know your secret. Hey, we're friends now. Like, that's that kind of vibe. That's Terry's vibe. I don't think he got permission from Bruce to go do that, but he's just like, no, it's that's the neighborly thing to do. Whereas Bruce Wayne will be like, I'm in the shadows, like I'm dark and I'm brooding. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So it is a big revelation when he does show up, and he's just like, I've actually shown up to be with the kid that I was part of traumatizing back in the day.
It's really nice, and the way they frame that shot, so he opens the door and you get a sense of the space between Bruce and Tim, and there's kind of like a weight that just lifts between them. It's just a nice, watching the scene 3 or 4 times like we did to analyze every minute kind of thing. That really stuck out to me, the way they framed that shot as he walks in, and there's a pregnant pause between "Hello, Tim" and then "Hi, old man." And it's lovely. It's nice. And it is a nice moment of growth for Bruce that he actually took the time to, because we hear so often in Batman Beyond how kind of miserable and lonely he is and how he's turned his back on everyone, and this is kind of him coming full circle. So it's really, really nice. Big shout out to Dean Stockwell, by the way. It never occurred to me before that was him playing Tim in this. I never watched Quantum Leap, but I'm familiar with Dean Stockwell just from popping up in stuff, like throughout the 90s. He's in an episode of Lois and Clark. He's definitely in Star Trek somewhere as well, isn't he? And he's just one of those kind of stalwart character actors who always pops up. Yeah. So
I know Dean Stockwell is living Hollywood legend. Not living because he's dead now. But
I'm ashamed to say that I know he's in like Paris, Texas and all this, and he's in all these like actual films, but I just know him as like special guest star of the week, Dean Stockwell.
He did Smallville at some point, right? He seems like he would have been on a Smallville eventually.
I don't know if he did Smallville. No, he definitely didn't, because he was in Lois and Clark, and there's only a select number of people that were in both of those shows. So
okay, fair enough. He strikes me though, maybe because I'm thinking of him in Quantum Leap, but like, you could do like a Mxyzptlk or something. Like you could, if you kind of imped him up a little bit, but then
Yeah.
who was it in Lois? Was Curtis Armstrong did him in Lois and Clark, or
Mxyzptlk?
yeah?
No, it was Howie Mandel.
Oh, Gizmo himself. Yeah, there you
And
go.
it was actually, I honestly think the Mxyzptlk episode of Lois and Clark is really, really underrated. And it's one of the best episodes of a really crap final season. So it's a Christmas episode, and it has it's kind of like a Groundhog Day time loop type plot, and it's really, really well done. I think it's really good.
Well, fair enough.
But that's not the one that Dean Stockwell's in. The episode he's in is really forgettable. It's in season 1, and nothing really. I think it's like Lois's rival from when she was in college or something like that, and just never heard from again or something. And Dean Stockwell's the villain.
Yeah, why would you waste your Dean Stockwell like that? You know, you only get one shot at Dean Stockwell. Come on.
Yeah.
So but within this whole final moment, because this is our kind of final moments with beta-ass Bruce. We've been with him, and Kevin Conroy Bruce. We've been with him since our beginning of our Mask of the Phantasm season, and we get to see his. Of course, we left at the end note of Mask of the Phantasm, heartbreaking final scene for him, where it's like Andrea's gone, and then it's just him sort of doomed to his life as Batman, and then it's like the signal goes, and this is like, it's heroic, but it's also like, this is my lot in life, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then to see like all these years later that he's paid any penance he needed to pay, and he's willing to come and I should be reaching out to people more, and I should be he's taken back over Wayne Enterprises. He's coming back into the light. We're not at the point of him standing alone up in a dark, grotesque riddled building, waiting to be called. He's out there just in the sunshine, been like, yeah, I'm back, baby. That's it's a very nice moment. It just shows you that Terry's got through to him. He's learned. Yeah. He's learned all these. Although part of me was kind of like Terry saying to him what are you doing here? And he's like, I had a checkup down the corridor there.
I'm really, really old.
Walk into that room, it's like, oh, sorry, I got the wrong room. Just coming back out again. It's like, I'll wait in the car for you, Terry.
That line he has is so lovely as well. It's not Batman that makes you worthwhile, it's the other way around.
Yes.
It's really, really nice. And it's kind of somewhat evocative of the line in Batman Begins as well. It's not who you are underneath, it's what you do that defines you. It's like, the thing that makes Batman worthwhile is the person wearing the mask, not the mask itself. It's just it's a nice thing to think about.
No, I genuinely loved that line here. I thought that was really moving. It was a great way to sort of wrap things up.
And it also makes the eventual thing we learn in Justice League even more stupid, because in that we find out that no, it's just your DNA. It's nothing to do. It has to specifically be Bruce Wayne or someone related to him.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
And the thing is as well though, because did all those whatever happened to all those other villains, there was a planned sequel to this.
Yes, I was going to ask you about this.
Yeah, wherein they're going to bring back Catwoman. And the plot line, this is obviously pre that Justice League episode, was that you would discover that, and it was all kind of based down around people having all this thing about but Terry's mom has red hair, and his dad had brunette hair. So why has Terry McGinnis got black hair? And they brought it down to he was a clone of Bruce Wayne, but was created by Selina Kyle, who had gone in and stolen the DNA. And to create her own perfect version of Batman that would be obedient to her. Which is a kind of weird, knowing the weird, sexy relationship that Batman and Catwoman have, is like, that's a bit uncomfortable. That she just wanted a version of Batman that she can control.
It
and
also
also
sounds...
they did it in they kind of adapted that in the comics, because there's a storyline where in the BTAS comics where Bruce has amnesia, and we talked about it last season because Catwoman dresses him up in like a Catman suit, and he doesn't, and she's just filling all the info in for him, and he's just like completely complicit to everything. And then afterwards, he says I will literally never forgive you for this and stuff. It's like it's pretty dark,
That's way more of a Talia plot as well. It feels more like something Talia and Ra's al Ghul would do, that they'd create their own Batman.
Yeah, cause I've always bumped into the Selina on the show. Because I never thought I never liked her in the early BTAS episodes when it was all the animal rights stuff.
Oh, really?
And then they kind of get her a bit better in the new Batman Adventures era. But even that plot line of like she wants a version of Batman she can control is kind of like, is that what Catwoman would want though? Because she likes to toy with him, and she likes the chase, and she likes the kind of like that. There's opposites attract, and she has a kind of she likes messing around with Batman. That's kind of that's where the sexual tension comes from. There, as you're saying, Rob, Talia and Ra's al Ghul will be like, oh, we can create a Batman that we can control. Yeah. That's, makes 1,000,000% more sense with them.
Yeah, true.
On the other hand, though, Bruce Timm is really kind of kinky in a weird way, and Catwoman wears skin-tight leather and has a whip. Mm-hmm. And the idea of a Batman that she could control, straight away your mind is going, okay, is there weird dominatrix stuff going on there?
Definitely. That's kinky in itself, yeah.
I do wonder if maybe they could have floated it as a Raj Talia combo, but then they're like, well, that's not enough those characters aren't big enough to warrant a movie, whereas like the Joker is, kind of thing.
Although, that being said, the Ra's al Ghul episode of Batman Beyond could have been a movie. That was a kick-ass episode.
We've not talked about it. I think we're going to do a hiatus episode on that, because
I want to do that. When it was described to me, I'm like, yep, we're doing it.
It's like, John, you're not aware of the twist in it. Like,
no.
I want to get your register on what the big reveal of that episode is. Like it's incredible. Like
there's a thing that only happens twice in Batman Beyond, and one of them is in an episode called Disappearing Ink in the first season, and it fucking floored me and my brothers as kids. And then it happens again in this Ra's al Ghul episode, and I don't want to spoil what it is, but it's a big thing.
Yeah, I'm excited. This sounds great. I'm deliberately keeping myself in the dark.
Oh no, that's one you don't want spoiled before going in. Yeah. It's a big one. But yeah. So then again, that is the quote. What's his name? The Wally Brando in Twin Peaks. Like, what a wonderful sentiment. Bruce saying like, it's not it's not the Batman that makes you worthwhile. It's what you make Batman worthwhile. Really, because it's good. Yeah, and Bruce's own mentality as well. Because his whole thing is like it's like a mantle he's taken on. It's like it's a monster he's created and stuff. Is Batman. And it's kind of like, you have now moved past what I was into, like you're your own man now, Terry. And
that's why it's so nice, I think, because it's almost like that's him finally going, you know what, you're Batman now, like 100%. It's you.
Yeah, and we got that bit of Bruce walking in and Tim Drake been like, and him going like, oh hello Tim, and Tim Drake been like, hello. Old man, have you got the right room here? Who are you? It's like, Tim, it's me. It's Bruce. Like, you get the hell out of here, you.
I think you'd recognize him anywhere.
It's never precedent. He's just like, oh, you're the guy. Like, so many questions though left unanswered about just like what happened with Bruce and Tim. Is just like, did he fund his education at least? Did he just go, as soon as all that happened, he's like, kid, you're out the door.
I'm replacing you.
You've been foisted off to some orphanage. He's like, are you sitting around like, Tim, Dick used to say he really liked living with the circus. Would you consider, I can get you into the circus if it gets you out and away from me now, because I don't want to think about that anymore.
Like, I think they do say, Barbara in the movie earlier on describes how he was forbidden from being Robin, but she said he left soon after that. So it was as if to say he was actually living in Wayne Manor, but not as Robin.
If he couldn't be Robin, he didn't want to be there, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it was his choice to leave is the implication there.
Yeah.
Bruce was like, you're a great sidekick. That's why it was so hard to cut you.
Because, Damien, I like your style. But yeah, so it's maybe because Tim obviously he is a fully qualified satellite engineer and stuff, so he did go to a very good school. But I do wonder if Bruce was like, "Do you want money? Like I can give you like $5 million because I won't notice it going missing. Like, do you want that?" Or was it very much like, "No, I'm because I imagine Dick Grayson would be like, no, if you're going to do it, you have to like cut off all ties. Like,
that's the vibe I got. He's like, no, I'm going to make my own way.
If you're going to be your own man, you have to be your own man. Whereas Bruce might have been like, he's like 11. This kid, I'm not like, I got to give him money or something. What? But then Bruce, maybe Alfred would be like that. But
Like, I could see Bruce coming up with some fake scholarship or something that
Yeah.
he doesn't know.
Yeah,
I
no, he
feel
would have
like
been
he'd be
secretly
sneaky.
funding it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good point, Saoirse, because if I remember correctly, Nightwing in the new Batman Adventures, they established that when he breaks up, quote unquote, with Batman and goes off to do his own thing, they established that he's living off a trust fund set up by the circus.
Oh, come
Question mark, which just seems like complete nonsense. It's like, no, that's something that Bruce Wayne set up, and he's just pretending that it's,
It's like
he's funneling it through dummy corporations or whatever.
Yeah.
I was thinking of Dick getting a letter. It's like, you've won the first annual Flying Graysons Award for outstanding achievement in the field of excellence.
That sounds
Yes,
about
that'll
right.
do.
Yeah.
Do I get a big a big award ceremony with like dancers and stuff? And Bruce is like, oh god damn it.
A trust fund set up by the circus just sounds like it just couldn't not be money laundering for like an orphaned acrobat. Oh sure, yeah, no,
Absolutely.
that's money laundering.
Yeah, Bruce didn't. If he didn't set it up in that episode, he hears that he's like, "The what?" It's like, "Oh, I'm taking down Holly Circus. I've been after these assholes for years." That's clearly what trust fund. Oh, but yeah, that's so we go from that then into good old fashioned Batman movie ending.
Hey.
We've been in this scenario like 4 times now, where like, how do you end one of these movies? Oh, Batman on a rooftop, and then he jumps off and he swoops away or whatever. Mask of Phantasm, and that way, feel a bit bad for this movie because obviously it would always be endlessly compared to Mask of Phantasm. But the ending of Mask of Phantasm is so good. It's such a powerful bit of music. This is the way that scene's set up. It's beautiful. So it's just like, this is good. This is good.
I like it because it's got its new twist of the new
Yeah, I like
visuals. He looks different. The city looks different. So it's the same but refreshed.
Yeah, it's like poetry. It rhymes.
It is, man. But again, it's not even like the, of course, the first one, 89. It was like the magnificent, dun, 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 and then just like, Batman, Batman. It's just like fantastic. Of course, we all know now, though, from looking at it, it's like, that cape looks a bit suspect in that shot, but whatever.
Does it?
Yeah, that was you see it. I think we talked about it when we went to see it last year. It's like that last
Maybe we did.
that final shot of like him standing up, where it's it's obviously a stuntman in there. The cape looks a lot like thinner, and a lot more sort of like a costume cape rather than like the old school, like the
leather.
the leather and stuff. Yeah, it's a bit. We talked about it in that minute back in '89 too. It's just like it's the one thing letting it down. It's very noticeably not the same kind of thing.
I'll have to go back and rewatch Batman '89 for the 87,000th time.
Oh, what a
to
shame!
verify this.
Saoirse sitting there, just like, why did you have to mention that?
God damn it!
That's my night gone now. But what was the end of Returns? Of course, it's Catwoman on top of the thing, and then of course the both iconic Schumacher ones, where we can apply that it's Batman and Robin on a rooftop because they're by the bat signal, so we assume that they're again ending the movie on a rooftop. And then, but the weird thing now, though, it's like, Batman on a bike is the way you end a movie these days. Like, the Dark Knight ends with him on a bike. The Batman ends with him on a bike. It's like we're taking Batman and endings into strange new places.
You can get away with it once, but don't keep doing it.
My note I just had here with this ending, I was like, they're just setting up Rockstar Batman, because that score with like the guitar piece,
so lovely.
it's fantastic.
It's great.
Wow, 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 wow.
I have to say though, like in the next chunk, because when we did the opening credits, I was like, this music is a bit dated and it's a bit Baywatch Nights or whatever.
Hey, don't you insult
Baywatch
Baywatch Nights.
But in the next chunk, there's a point where the music switches keys and it goes into this real like. And I was just like, fuck, this fucking music's great. Like, this is really rocking. I'm loving this.
I've written down Christopher Carter's outro music is such a vibe. Early 2000s industrial tech noir cafe core.
Yeah.
That's how I've described it.
That's the official genre title.
No. And sadly not played in tech noir in the Terminator.
No.
Yeah.
It's been one of my life's ambitions to open an exact replica of Tech Noir.
Although we'd
love
seen
it.
last night as we were leaving too, because I was joking about it, like one of the bands they're playing in there, some band called Triangles, but they've spelled it like TRYANGLZ or something. It's like, their agent was just like, they're called Triangles. No, get a pen. You're going to like, not that way. They're a pain in the ass. They're not going to make it.
Yeah, we've got to explain the whole thing every time.
But yeah, so obviously though, Terry making a bit of a rookie mistake though there in standing up with the mask off. So people just looking out, they're going like, "That's teenage bad boy Terry McGinnis. What's he doing out there?"
Because everyone knows him.
It's like, he's Batman. What the hell?
Small note on the mask there. I like that. One of the things I think is really cool about the Batman Beyond suit is that it is a fabric suit. And it's just implied to be so advanced and so technologically cool and whatever, that it's just so advanced that it can be armored while also just being fabric.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, I just thought that's a cool idea. Whereas a lot of modern stuff where they do Batman Beyond, it's just like an Iron Man type situation.
I don't like that.
Like, and even in the Arkham Knight game, I want to say, when you get the Batman Beyond suit as a DLC, it's very kind of like armored and Master Chiefy looking, which I think is like not as futuristic as what it is in the cartoon, where it's just fabric and it's got like, you don't see it in this movie, but underneath it has this whole layer of like circuitry and stuff like that, and they use that to kind of simulate blood in the cartoon, so he'll get like slashed and you'll just see this like red circuitry running down his arm. I always thought that was so cool.
You didn't mean to, Rob, but you've beautifully let me segue into a note that I had, because we've not talked about like the Beyond suit all that much, and if you look there in the chat, I've forwarded on a link to, this was not the original design of Terry McGinnis' outfit.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And if you look at the link there, you'll see original concept designs from Glenn Murakami, which are everything you said you did. You're like, originally, he looks almost like Killer Moth in a kind of weird way. A lot more tech heavy, a lot more armor heavy.
I don't like it as much, no.
Yeah, very clearly wearing a helmet. It almost looks, because I think Glenn Murakami went on to do stuff for the Teen Titans show, like those covers. And it looks more like, that looks like Deathstroke from that or something. Like he looks like almost like a generic robot villain or something. I can imagine them all getting that concept and being like, those are nice drawings, Glenn. That's not what we're going for at all.
He looks like the Beetle, the character the Beetle from Spider-Man, if you know him.
Yeah, I can see that.
But it's even like the beetle and the insectoid killer moth kind of thing. The ears look like antenna rather than, it really was like we gotta go back from the ground up and redesign. And then because they have red, gray, and black, which is like, okay, you're getting there. Gray, black, and green. It's just like, no, that doesn't work at all.
Everyone knows green is a villainous color, unless it's Green Lantern.
Green's my favorite color. What are you saying about me?
No? What are you saying about yourself, John? I also put in one as well, because we have like that one. I think everyone would be like, yeah, we got a much better deal when they decided to scrap that and go for the classic Batman Beyond look, which is just a look that everyone seems to really like.
Yeah.
But then also the original designs of the Dee Dees is put in the chat there as well, where you can see they were originally just blatantly Harley Juniors kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's another one. It's an interesting note, but they're like, nah, just go redo that.
It's been done.
Yes. So I'll put those all these pictures, of course, in the group chat or in the Batman listeners cave, and everyone can peruse them themselves. But like, we landed on our feet with the end design for teenage bad boy Terry McGinnis there.
Definitely.
Yeah. And
it's so interesting to think about as well. It's like, if they ever did, because they've talked so long now about doing a live action Batman Beyond movie with Michael Keaton, it's probably never going to happen now, sadly. But like, if they ever did do it, would they go the kind of armored Master Chiefy route, or would they make it? And would they do the moving lips is a big one. Like, how do you do that in live action? Do you bother? Do you just have him with a Spider-Man mask where he doesn't have a mouth?
Yeah, I think that's what they would do. Doing the moving mouth the only way to do it really would be CGI, and that'd look weird.
Yeah, it would. That hasn't stopped them before.
Well, true.
That's weird though too, because like the moving mouth thing has proven to be a weakness for him in the show, because that's like one of Ink's moves. It's just like, oh, you just pour yourself down his throat. That's how,
true.
But if he had like a mask on, it's like, oh, I can't do that.
That's another thing where it was just like, man, this show is dark. Like, Ink forces herself into his mouth, and then he like vomits her back up. Like, this is a show for 9-year-olds.
Like, he's supposed to be like, what, 17, 18 or whatever. You think you would be like, after that, you're like, Bruce, I'm done. Like, an ink monster came at me and poured herself down my throat and nearly killed me. Like, that was really messed up, man.
Yeah.
And
There's a scene like that in that episode. He's like, what? You never told me I was going to be going up against these kinds of things. That's a good episode.
Yeah. And then Bruce is like, oh, I've been inside Clayface many times. Like, well, you get over it, man. The grappling hook. I keep telling you, the grappling hook is what you need.
Solves all.
Don't have grappling. Yeah, you don't have a grappling hook. You got even better. You got the rocket boots. You don't need a grappling hook.
Good point.
Yeah. Speaking of which, of course, and it is a kind of a weird one. The thing that makes this different is that, like, in any other Batman on a rooftop scenarios, it's usually the bat signal will go to kind of you're in demand, you know. But up here, Terry McGinnis never has a bat signal. He never had, as Barbara doesn't give him the dignity of a bat signal.
You haven't earned that yet.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you're still a bit of a pain in my ass, so I don't really want around, Terry. Like, I'm not calling on you. If you should show up, then whatever. But like, you ain't getting your own bat signal. Whereas, you know, where her dad was just like, yeah, you know, we desperately need you, Batman. So yeah, he doesn't have the same level of determination. This feels like Terry going like, okay, I guess I'll glide around and see if anything's happening. Like,
yeah, he's like patrolling.
Yeah. Whereas in the past, it was like, the signal's lit. We need you now. Something is happening that Batman is an urgent need. Whereas this is just like, oh, maybe there's like a mugging happening somewhere. Like, I'll find something, I guess. But just like in the Spider-Man Homecoming, which is the beginning, just like him going around like, you know, anyone this guy steal this bike? Like, what's happening here? Like I was trying to steal a car. It's my car, asshole. What are you doing?
Now that you say it is weird that they didn't do the bat signal in Batman Beyond, because there's loads of kind of cool, futuristic, cyberpunky ways you could do that. Like, maybe it's like a laser or something like that, or you know, it's odd. Like, there's a lot of stuff like that where, and this is semi decent segue to bring this up. If you remember the toys for Batman Beyond, there was like a second series of Batman Beyond toys where it was Batman Beyond Bat Link, and they had this description on the back of it about how Batman Beyond has entered a virtual reality dimension or whatever, and all these toys are like supposed to be like virtual reality versions of Batman. But within that, there was a Robin figure.
Wow.
And we had it, and it was like totally never appeared on the show, but like there was a Robin figure, and it was like as if Batman Beyond had a Robin. And that was something me and my brothers always wondered. It was like, oh, is there going to be like future versions of the sidekicks in this? And they never really did that, you know. There's loads of like cool stuff you could still do with Batman Beyond that they haven't really done. Like, do we find out much about Terry's juvie thing? Like, did they do an episode where they kind of elaborate on that at all?
No. I think there's episodes you just know that he was a troubled kid and he just did stuff, but it doesn't have the vibe. Like, he's not like Faith and Buffy where you're just like always on the verge of like, oh, Terry could go back into that juvenile lifestyle at the drop of a hat.
Oh, it's never going to happen now.
Yeah. So no, they don't elaborate on that too much. Not that I remember, anyway.
It's fodder for a live action movie, man.
There you go.
Totally.
Writes
100%.
itself.
Get Michael Keaton on the blower.
Yeah. Although I guess the vibe would be like whatever they were doing with Batgirl seems like that was kind of them doing the Batman Beyond thing as well, but it was like the mantle passing and all that. But like, hey, Keaton's just like, you know, I'm if you pay me, then sure, I'll do it again.
The man likes money.
Oh, well, then we're still hoping though that he has some. He said some things about Beetlejuice or Beetlejuice. coming up, which is giving me like, oh, he seems to like he's got a lot of integrity about it, at least. Like he's making sure they're doing the job right, which it's not out as of recording. And I'm allowing myself to get slightly excited about it.
Yeah, be a little bit. Don't get too excited.
Yeah. I think so. I've booked a double screening with Revenge of the Sith in the morning, and then Beetlejuice 2 in the afternoon. I'm like, I want to enjoy that day so much, but I don't know if it's going to happen. So.
Oh my goodness, that's eclectic viewing right there. It's hard to tell which would be the weaker. Anyway,
No,
I know. I think Beetlejuice will be okay, but it's just, when's the last time Tim Burton made a really, really great movie? Not like a passably good one, but like a great one, like Sleepy Hollow, maybe.
So some
people like Dark Shadows.
Oh, well, Big Fish was a big thing at the time.
Big Fish, yeah.
I actually really rewatched Frankenweenie last night, the stop motion Frankenweenie. I was like,
That's good. That's good.
It's pretty strong. It's not, but again, it's not a great movie. It's just like it's a very good movie. Is the thing, but oh, Saoirse, are you a Tim Burton fan, or are you just like I won't go near, I won't touch that man with a?
No, I'd say I'm a kind of a casual fan, but I'd appreciate it. I want to give the new Beetlejuice a chance.
Yeah.
You know?
I do know someone who's just like, she's so into it and waiting for it, and I'm just like, cool your jets though, because I have a feeling it could turn out to be crap. So
it probably will, but we hope it won't. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's nice that they've talked a lot about practical stuff. They've done a lot more practical stuff apparently for this. But then you watch the trailer and you're like, have they?
Yeah, the trailer looked all CG to me, but maybe we're just not seeing everything. I don't know.
Yeah. I think I've been on record because me and John did a commentary for Beetlejuice on the Patreon a while back. And one of the big thing I'm looking forward to is just like my favorite opening 30 seconds of any film ever is the opening 30 seconds of Beetlejuice, where it's like the Geffen logo, and it's just like it's the beginning of the theme, and it's Danny Elfman doing like, "Dale, you say that." And it's so atmospheric, and I guess got the Geffen Productions presents Beetlejuice, and the piano does a da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, if you can top that, if you give me that same vibe at the beginning of this one, then you got me, But I don't know if that opening is as important to them as it was to me. So
the real question is, can they harness the nostalgic magic of Beetlejuice the series, the cartoon?
I think that they seem to be like that's in people's mind's eye, because I know the musical is very much based on like more like the show than the movie.
Is it really?
That's it. Their whole thing is it's like, oh yeah, him and Lydia are like best friends and stuff, right? And it's like,
no,
they weren't that cartoon. It's like, but even the new movies are like, oh yeah, he's trying to win her back. Is like, he wasn't in love with Lydia though. Like, it was a marriage. He was doing it. He at the last minute he was just like, hey, this will be handy for me if we got married, and that was the only reason he was doing it. But now the idea that they were friends and they're in love and stuff, it's like, I don't get that, but we'll see. We'll see what they do with it.
Did the Beetlejuice musical play in the theater when you worked there, Saoirse?
No, unfortunately not. No.
Oh.
Not one of the ones I got to see.
No, I don't even know if it's come over here. Like, I know it was a Broadway thing, and I really wanted to see it. I don't know if it's toured outside the U.S. yet. Like it's
Oh, I don't know. Okay,
I'm sure it will. If this movie hits big, I guarantee you, it'll be crammed down your throats like ink down Terry McGinnis's esophagus.
We just did an episode on the 1966 Broadway musical version of Superman, and we did it with Matt Truex, who's on a bunch of our episodes, and he mentioned that he had recently seen Beetlejuice the musical and absolutely loved it.
Yeah,
so apparently it's good.
I've listened to the soundtrack, and it's like, yeah, the songs are popping. Like it seems like it's like it could work, The only thing I didn't like about it was that the vibe in it is that he's a much more like kind of, they try to make him more likable and a bit more pathetic, and he just wants a friend and stuff. And it's like, Beetlejuice to me was like, he's a malignant piece of crap. Like he's an antagonist. He's a bad guy. He's a sleazy, perverted bad guy. Like you can't make him likable because you like him because he's bad. Like that's the thing, But anyway, this isn't Beetlejuice. But yeah, we're out now. We're in the credits. We're back, baby.
Yeah, and I don't have loads of notes for the credits because we've talked about 99% of these people who are worth talking. That sounds really harsh. I don't mean they're not worth talking about, but people that we actually can get material on. You know?
Yeah, we touched on all of them, and I was going through, and I was like, Henry Rollins? What the hell? Oh, that's right, he was in this. Yeah.
Well, I've got one here that I'm going to ask you about, and you can edit this out. Did we talk about the VR newsman?
VR newsman.
Mark Jonathan Davis.
No, we didn't talk about the voice actor.
Because I didn't know until this popped up. And I was like, Mark Jonathan Davis, I know that name. I know that name very well. He's a singer.
Oh.
He's a parody singer called Richard Cheese.
That's Richard Cheese.
That's Richard Cheese.
Oh,
and
wow, I
I
had no
confirmed it before recording. Is that the same Mark Jonathan Davis? Yes, it is.
Oh, there you go. That's what were they getting in Static X to do this in the single when they could have had Richard Cheese?
I
the whole
know.
time?
And get this, he's in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 episodes of Batman Beyond.
There you go. Nice.
And he's in 1 episode of Superman the Animated Series.
Wow.
As Dude.
I'm just on his IMDb here as well. He also has a soundtrack credit on Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
What?
Ah.
Holy crap. As always, everything's connected. I've grown up with this guy for so long. So long. I love him. I'm obsessed with him.
Did Richard Cheese ever do Kiss from a Rose? That seems like the type of thing he would have done.
I've not heard him do it. One of my favourites is his Star Wars stuff. His Star Wars songs are all good, but he's not done, off the top of my head, a lot of...
So you have to kind of describe what, like, people who are listening to this might not know who Richard Cheese is.
Yeah.
It's basically, he's like a spoof lounge singer, but he'll do like covers of like Wonderwall and stuff like that, but in a kind of like sleazy lounge singer kind of style.
Well, he started out doing like rap and metal, didn't he? He'd do like System of a Down and stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good thing. I did not clock him at all. But yeah, that's a worthy. Supposed to, yeah. So maybe it's just were they fans of? When did he start performing as Richard Cheese? Like, was it post 2000s or?
Oh God, no. I think it's like late 90s.
So it might have been it was just taken off at the time. You never know. Like, who's to know whether they were fans and that's why they got him in, or if he was just like a working guy.
That's a good point. Maybe he started off as like an actor, well, like a voice actor and stuff like that, and he did the singing on the side, you know.
He annoyingly doesn't. Mark Jonathan Davis doesn't have his own. Richard Cheese has a wiki. He doesn't have Mark himself doesn't have one. But
he's got an IMDb. He's got a website as Mark Jonathan Davis, not Richard Cheese. Because
Don't worry about it, guys. Richard Cheese will always find a way to come up when you least expect it.
Yes.
Sorry. I'm really sorry. Every time I heard the name, I was like,
well, it took me like 5 years of being a fan to go, wait a minute, his name. He's called Dick Cheese.
To discover, though, Rob, to elaborate on your point there, Richard Cheese's cover of Disturbed's Down with the Sickness was featured in the 2004 Zack Snyder-directed remake of Dawn of the Dead.
Wow.
In 2016, the band had 2 songs in the motion picture Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice.
Incredible.
and he's also in Lego Batman.
Yeah,
I knew that one.
He's a one-track parody album called Live at Wayne Financial Tower, in which the band's performance is cut short by Superman's heat vision.
Of course.
It's kind of make me want to go back to Dawn of Justice right now.
Oh, incredible.
There's a first time for everything.
And that Disturbed cover's great because he does the noise the Disturbed guy does. I don't know how you describe that weird noise he does, but he does it, but in a lounge style. So he goes like,
I'm sure you guys have mentioned this already, but one name that really stood out to me in the credits was Rachel Lee Cook playing Chelsea in that one scene of the movie.
Yeah, now we had a whole episode where I think I tortured the guests by just talking about Rachel Lee Cook the whole time because I love Rachel Lee Cook so much. Although you
that's a bit of a guess for like one scene, like what? And she's not even. I assume that she must have played her in the other episodes. She doesn't. It's literally just this one movie.
She plays her. She plays her in her second appearance. They had Chelsea showed up, different actress, and then in season 2 they brought in Rachel Lee Cook for like a special episode revolving around Chelsea. Like
that's it, though. It's still not enough.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, but it's I think. Because I think who was it we had? I think it was Allison and Christopher Grimm who were just like, I'm not really all that familiar with Rachel Lee Cook. It's like, at the time, she was like a global, so like, you both must have been...
Peak Rachel Lee Cook era. Like, what because She's All That
She was
around
cooking.
what, like 99. Oh, nice. Very nice. But yeah, like She's All That 1999, so it's right kind of at her, peak of stardom, I feel like.
Yeah, this is where I think she. We talked about it in those episodes, but like, she does mention that she has some sort of regrets about like around this time she was offered the role of Rogue in X-Men. Obviously Anna Paquin took that, and she's at the time she's like, no, I want to be in all these weird little indie movies that they call the cool people of Met are in. And then now years later, she's like, I probably should have took that because that would have given me a lot more security as a career because I was making things that nobody saw.
Hindsight, though,
Yeah, but now she is just like, I'm a Hallmark, Christmas movie lady, and it is what it is. But I could have been, I could have been a big shot.
Could have been a contender.
Yeah, and they offered me, but that isn't fair. Like Anna Paquin's not the biggest star in the world either. Like, so maybe
exactly.
who's to say, We do get, of course, though, an actress we didn't talk about there is Mary Shear as Mrs. Tim Drake, the one line off the it's like, Tim, what are you watching on TV or whatever.
Tim.
But yeah, she's another one was just like a bunch of random like Nickelodeon stuff. A lot of these people come from kids' TV, as you'll sort of discover. Yeah, like it's the Penguins of Madagascar, Bunked. All this kind of stuff she shows up on. But then she was also in the movie It's Pat.
Oh, God.
One of the great SNL follies. And considering how many follies SNL has had. Like it's,
well, and plus we're notorious SNL haters. So.
Yes, yeah. It's weird, too, that I'm always like... a friend of the show, Dave Fowles, always coming. He's always sending me links to stuff that Sarah Sherman, who's currently on SNL, is doing. It's like, oh, I love Sarah Sherman because she does those weird body horror comedy, and it's like all the sketches she does in SNL are terrible. Her actual stand-up isn't all that good either. I just like the vibe of her. I like the weird clothes she wears and the whole concept of like I do disgusting body horror stand-up, but yet. Because of the stank of SNL is still all over her. So.
Ruins it.
Yeah. So every time I think Dave thinks I like her a lot more than I do. I was like, I know I like her. I like the idea of Sarah Sherman rather than.
Do you know what I just realized, guys? The last time I was on the show, we were discussing a project wherein both Mark Hamill and Frank Welker starred.
Yeah,
and I'm looking at the credits here now. Frank Welker plays Wolf in this.
Yeah. The reunion, we were all the biggest reunion since Oasis was Mark Hamill and Frank Welker getting back together.
They honestly could have just used like unused material from Scooby-Doo and just pasted into this.
Hell yeah.
I think like a lot of his career, so Frank Welker, seriously, in case you don't know, is the legendary voice actor who's been playing Fred in Scooby-Doo since Scooby-Doo began, and he's still doing it, and he also is just in every cartoon imaginable, and he's Megatron in Transformers, and he's this, that, and the other thing, but he also, part of why he gets so much work is he does great animal voices. And like whenever they need, like on The Simpsons or whatever cartoon, whenever they need a weird, and even in live action stuff, if they need a weird animal sound, they'll get Frank Welker, and that'll be, and like even in I think The Shadow, there's that knife thing in The Shadow that has a little face and it goes or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, get Frank Welker to do that. Like whenever they need a weird sound that has to be from a living thing, it's always Frank Welker. So he's back doing what he does best.
Love it.
Am I right in thinking he also voices Ace? Does he?
I think
that's a good question. He possibly does.
I imagine yeah. Why would you get we got the most famous dog actor in the world right here?
Yeah.
That's a good question. It's not in. I can't see it in the
not
credits.
There, no.
No. That's weird.
It probably is him, to be honest.
It's yeah, there's some friction where they had like another guy. Richard Cheese was voicing Ace or something on the side.
Here we go. Frank Welker, yeah, he does Ace. Yeah.
No, there you go.
Yeah. Brilliant.
It's like, well, while you're here, Frank, can you do a couple of like growls into the mic?
Oh.
They didn't pay him extra. They just said, "Oh, it's warm up. It's a warm up exercise." Yeah.
And as I said, yeah, John, like a lot of the credits we have covered already and stuff, and then a lot of them were just back into like they all worked in all the old 90s cartoons and stuff. So
yeah, because some of them I made notes about and then realised, oh, we talked about them last season.
Yeah, like you brought up, like, have we talked about Andrea Romano? I was like, yes, we've talked about Andrea Romano.
I thought we did, because as soon as I saw her credits, Land Before Time, 2, 3, 4, and 5, I remembered, we made a joke that she didn't do 1. And it's the one everybody knows.
I should mention, by the way, we were invited to go to a screening of, I think it was Mask of the Phantasm last night, that was being introduced by Andrea Romano.
Wow.
And I had to miss it. I had to miss it because I was going for dinner with my mum. But yeah,
No. The parents can wait.
yeah.
That's crazy. She's in Ireland. Is she touring with it or something, or what's happening?
I think she's here for Dublin Comic Con, and they had her go to this thing as well. Yeah.
Okay, crazy.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
Like we did that Terminator. This is so off topic again. That Terminator thing. I assume. Did you get the intro by Cameron?
No.
Oh, we had a whole different bit where Cameron was introducing it, not live. Can I just say?
From his underwater bunker thing that
Probably.
he lives in, like a weirdo.
And it's a weird thing to put at the start of a celebratory screening, because he was like, you know what, I don't think this holds up. But other people do, so, have fun.
It's like, there's some scenes in this that really make me cringe and stuff, and I've tried my best to, like, the whole thing, I said to John at the time, it had the vibe of Homer with the float, been like, okay, everyone, this is my movie, but shut up, I gotta explain a lot of it, okay?
Yeah.
It was just an odd vibe.
That actually... That reminds me of the commentaries on Batman the Animated Series, where it's just Bruce Timm complaining all the time about all the little mistakes and flaws, and you're like, no, this is better than all the stuff you do now, Bruce Timm. Come back and make it more like this.
It's a weird one, because I understand as an artist you often hate your own work. Absolutely. Like one of our best friends, I think he's one of the best musicians in the world, and he hates his music. He hates it, and I'm like, you're brilliant.
Yeah. It's because you see because you made it. You see the things that have gone wrong.
Yeah.
So that's what you're focusing on, instead of, like, you don't realize people just looking at it will be like, oh, that's amazing. Like, but your mind's going like, no, but that thing at the corner there is off and stuff. Like, you can't not see it. You know.
And it probably wasn't exactly what they intended it to be, and they dwell on that side of it as opposed to the finished work.
I think even, like, Danny Elfman, he's complained about the Batman soundtrack, and he's complained about the mixing, and he's complained about the Beetlejuice soundtrack. He's like, I didn't realize the tone of the movie properly, so I wouldn't have written it the way I've written it. And it's just like, that's one of the greatest film soundtracks of all time, Danny. What are you talking about?
Compared to what Danny Elfman's doing now, like, well, I don't know. Maybe he's done some great stuff, but, like, compared to, like, I don't know, Age of Ultron or the Joss Whedon cut of Justice League, they're allegedly scored by Danny Elfman, and it's just so generic and forgettable. And you're like,
it is like
did he even show up to work?
I was thinking, though, at the time, it's like, like a creative run as strong as Tim Burton back in the day, from Pee-wee up through to, like, Sleepy Hollow or whatever. The only person you can think of, like, really rivals that is Danny Elfman, because, like, he was on fire for so long. Like, all of the 80s, most of the 90s, even into, like, the late 70s when he was starting out, like, early Oingo Boingo stuff. Like, that's all incredible as well. Like, it's kind of like I can almost forgive him for burning out, because just like, I was just going so high and so far for so long,
Even the stuff that people say he phoned in back then, like Dick Tracy and the Flash theme, people complain that they're too much like Batman. I'm like, no, those are also excellent.
Yeah, all brilliant.
He was so good.
One thing I wanted to say about the music, actually, in the final scene there, was that they do a kind of nice little, because we've said this movie's kind of like Terry becoming Batman properly, like he is now.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And when he's up there, they do the little guitar part. It has an inflection of the dun, 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 like the proper old school Batman theme, but it's not quite that. It's an electric guitar. It's a couple of notes off, but it's like, no, this is Terry Batman. Like, this is so he's
his own man.
He's got the vibe. He's got it down. He has his own theme. That's
and to go back to, I know we keep complaining about Epilogue, the Justice League thing later on. As a kid, I absolutely loved it when the Shirley Walker theme kicked in at the end on the last shot with Terry flying away or whatever. Now I'm like, no, that's wrong.
Yeah,
because, like, the whole point is that he's his own man now, and that it undermines him by using Bruce's theme there.
Yeah.
It is actually better if he has his own theme like he does here.
I agree.
Yeah, but no, I've not got many notes on the credits. There's one I was hoping to get some info from, because I saw there that Titles was done by a guy called Ryan Woodward, and you look into him, and he's a great stuff on his Twitter, because he's just like he's an animation nerd. He loves it. Like, he's talking about like look how beautifully we managed to animate this hair and stuff coming and flowing behind him. There's a really nice little thing he did where there's a thing. Apparently, his daughter was getting braces, and he animated a little cartoon of a girl looking in the mirror and smiling, and then putting on braces like lipstick on the mirror. And then syncing up her face with, like that new Joker trailer. Weirdly enough,
yeah.
And but I think it was made before. It's like maybe the Joker stole from this. But it was a really sweet. My daughter's nervous about getting braces, so I made her this little thing. I was like, that's really what a nice man and stuff.
This doesn't tie into that animated series Brace Face with Alicia Silverstone.
No. I think we did talk about that though back in the Batman and Robin days with the Brace Face. My life is complicated. But it's but he also, like you mentioned, like, yeah, one of my first jobs was doing some stuff for the Iron Giant. So that explosion at the end, yeah, I killed the Iron Giant. That was me. Like, I was part of the crew that had to animate that explosion and stuff. But him noting that, like, down in the credits as the title designer for Return of the Joker is that we know from the commentary that they had a much more elaborate title sequence in place, and then it was scrapped at the last minute. And so I've taken to Twitter to ask him.
Oh.
And he's not got back to me yet.
Scum. Subhuman scum.
Stay tuned.
To be fair, I only asked him earlier today, and his last tweet was like a week ago. So it might be he doesn't check that out. Hopefully by the final chunk, we might have some bit of info. Because I remember asking, like, the guy, like, when we were doing Batman Forever, the singer of that song from the game that was on the Batman Forever VHS, like, you can run, there's no... Managed to track him down, put out a tweet to him, didn't get anything back. About 2 months later, once the season was gone, he was like, I'll come on the show to talk about it if you want. And I was like, we're done, man, come on. But should really go back to him actually now to be like, we'll just do an episode on that, I guess. But
do it anyway, man. 25 years next year. Do it anyway.
Yeah.
Or 30 years, sorry.
So, but yeah, we'll have, hopefully we'll be able, this guy might just come back to be like, yeah, I did another thing. And then he might not elaborate on it, or he might be like, that wasn't my department, that was a different crew or whatever. Or he might be like, I'll tell you exactly what that original title sequence was going to be. Or maybe he'll even upload it and be like, here it is, I've still got it on a hard drive somewhere. So we at Bat Minute might break some news, on this very show. So
you always come in for news.
So these were the titles near the start of the movie, were they? They were originally going to be something different.
Yeah, because the thing we said at the time, they're a bit bland.
They are very bland, yeah.
Yeah, and it's in the director's commentary you can get on YouTube with Bruce Timm and all those guys. They're like, yeah, we had a much bigger kind of thing planned, and it was in the midst of being made, and then at the last minute they were just like, we've not got time to finish that, just throw something together. So he might have been brought in as a kind of like, yeah, just throw something together. The other team's done. Or he might have been in the middle of it, and they're like, dude, just pull the plug, make us something basic. And like that's when he came back with us. Yeah, the really bland opening titles, yeah.
I would be interested to know if he worked on Batman Mystery of the Batwoman, which came out a couple of years later and did have kind of a distinctive title sequence at the start of it, and also was not very good.
Yeah.
But it's worth a watch, but it feels kind of like a generic TV reunion movie. Like nothing really significant happens in it except that a Batwoman appears.
This is the classic scene of that one goon that's been beaten up by Batman in the past, and like Batman's in hoking through like a filing cabinet, and that goon comes in and sees him, and Batman looks at him, and the guy just walks out of the room, and then they're like, oh, what was in there? And he's like, oh, nothing, and just walks away. That's the one classic moment of Mystery of the Batwoman to me. Like that bit was like, yeah, that's fantastic. But like everything else is like, the mystery is resolved within the movie. I don't even remember who the Batwoman was because I didn't care. Like it just wasn't that good, But
and speaking of names in the credits, Mystery of the Batwoman, it's all connected, guys. Don't worry. I was looking at the credits there. Matthew Valencia obviously plays Robin in the flashback scenes in this, and he was Tim Drake in the actual show, the new Batman Adventures or whatever. This, I guess, is his last appearance as Tim Drake, because in Mystery of the Batwoman, it's Stifler's brother. Eli Marienthal is the name of the actor. He's the guy from all the American Pie straight-to-video sequels. He plays, for whatever reason, Matthew Valencia didn't come back.
Well, we did a whole thing where, because Matthew Valencia doesn't voice Tim in Joker form, because they wanted to do, the laugh and then descending into crying, and apparently he regrets it now, but he walked out of the studio because he's like, they were asking a teenage boy to cry on mic basically, and Andrea Romano was there for ages giving him everything, and he's like, no, I won't do it, because again, surly teenage boy basically. And it wouldn't be surprised if they're just like, we'll go with someone else that is a bit more of a team player or whatever. But it's Andrea Romano herself doing that laugh crying and stuff like so.
That's really interesting, because I specifically remember in the comic book adaptation of this, he had a little bit more actual dialogue in those scenes as Joker Boy. Like, he sort of says, no, and I think he says please at one stage under his breath. And like, I always just assumed, sometimes these comic book adaptations, they throw in extra dialogue, just to fill up the panels. But that could have been maybe those were lines he was supposed to have, and they had to cut them when it was just Andrea Romano doing it.
I kind of like though that he is just like, it's just like he's like an empty shell that's just laughing. Like, it's just like, it's so much more chilling that he's not. It really seems as if there's just nothing in there. Like, it's they really messed that kid up. Like, that was But yeah, I mean, that's I am all chunked out though for this. Does anyone else have any final chunks to blow at the chunk 15 of Return of the Joker?
Nothing here.
Last thing I'll say about the credits, just that there is an ink and paint supervisor in the credits, which I just think is amazing, because Batman Beyond, yes, it's set in the future, it's a futuristic show, but they used much older methods to make it than they used for the stuff immediately afterwards, which is crazy. I think there was some digital stuff going on in this one, but it was also like pen and paper and hand drawn.
It was a nice middle ground. Yeah.
This would be like, people always make that joke about the Dino supervisor on the Jurassic
Phil Tippett.
Phil Tippett, and they'll be like, ink supervisor and Batman. But I was like, you had one job, just running around crazy in this damn show.
On that note, then, should we head off to the Dark Knight?
I am ready to. I'm ready to swoop into that purple knight, just like Terry McGinnis said there.
Yeah, let's swoop to the Purple Knight. Would our guests like to promote anything, or if you can't be bothered, promote something that's not even to do with you if you want? Anything you like.
So I'm on All Star Superfan. It's a Superman podcast. We do everything and anything Superman related. We just did an episode on the Broadway musical. We have an interview coming up with a guy who actually played Superman, so check that out. And also, you mentioned the Iron Giant there. I just appeared on an episode of And Why Not Pod, talking all about the Iron Giant, and it was a great discussion.
Amazing.
And Stuart, who presents that, also does a Superman show, and I'll be appearing on that soon as well.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, I don't have anything personal to plug, but I will just give a shout out, Niall, for putting me onto a great podcast I've started listening to recently. The Buffy the Gilmore Slayer.
Hey.
It's been really, really entertaining, so I appreciate that, and I think I'll be coming up to some of the really interesting episodes. So thanks for that recommendation, and I'll recommend it to anyone with an interest in either of those shows.
Yeah. And my hope is for when we get into next season, when we're back to minute by minute format and we have more guests on, is to reach out to those folks to be like, it's neither related to Buffy or the Gilmore Girls, but Adam West Batman.
I feel like you could find a lot of common ground between Buffy and Adam West Batman.
That's true. It's true, actually. I guess it was the Buffy of its day in many ways. Much like Batman Beyond was designed to be the Buffy of the Batman universe as well. So,
yeah.
Well, check all of that out, everybody. And as usual, speak to us on Facebook at the Batminute Listeners Cave, on Twitter at Batminute, Instagram is the Batminute. We're on all the other things. I don't know, if you just look us up. We're on pretty much everything. I can't think of something we're not on. Although, as I've hinted at, I don't want to use Twitter anymore.
Yeah, I hear you.
I just want to delete. But the problem is, it's the only way to speak to some of our guests. It's all they use. So it's like, well, that's the only reason we've got it. But if you message us on there, or Niall, one of us, we will reply. Okay, we'll get the notification. And check us out on Patreon and TeePublic under our network's name, Sleepy Charlie Media. And we'll be back in 1 week with the next episode, the finale of the mini season. It's here already. It's now. Well, it's in a week. So, see you in a week, Batmites.
Next time, to Batman Beyond and Infinity. Despite Conroy and co. having cast off and Hamill's harlequin of hate being rendered defunct, some intrepid, demented podcasters still need to get to grips with the gristle of a last Joker chunk. But as we mosey past a familiar Melnicker moniker and the Warner Brothers crest, what lies beyond for Batman as we lay this season to rest? Our coverage concludes with a Chris Carter guitar wail over the credits trail next week, folks. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minutes.